Shabbat shalom to the Mishpachah. Welcome to our brothers and sisters in the name of Yahusha who are joining us on this beautiful set apart Sabbath. Shabbat shalom, sis.
Shabbat shalom. Okay, I'm ready.
I know. I know.
By the title alone. How are you, sis?
I'm doing good this morning. How about yourself?
I am doing wonderful.
How
Praise be to Yah.
All praises be to Yah once again.
Yes.
Father,
Yes.
Abba Yah for allowing us to see another day. How was your week?
It was great. It was really great. I can't complain, sis. It felt really good to get up and just get in my own car and come home way
Oh,
early.
yes.
Praise be to Yah.
Yes, I know you're happy about that.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I know you're happy because next week, everyone's on break.
Yes. Oh my
You
goodness.
got a week off, so you forgot about that.
Yes. I am excited to get some rest that I haven't been getting.
Yeah. Just get caught up on
And
just decompress. Like we need this. If you're not an educator, you have no idea at all. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started because this teaching says, I'm telling you, everyone who is listening, you got to stay for this entire message. This message is going to be the culmination of every, I would say, like the last 8 lessons. We have been, the Ruach has been pouring heavily in me during this faith walk. And I'm starting to see now, why he's doing that, because of this message right here. This is like leading up, coming back full circle to why all the previous messages that you have heard. This message is to, this is the 10 virgins message. It's entitled The Midnight Cry, the 10 virgins message. And this is to YahsharAL first, and then also the guests, those who join themselves to YahsharAL. And this is a very urgent, it's a very right now message because judgment is happening. Trying to see how I want to say this. This message, the way he brought it to me, and I'll just put it that way, the way this was brought to me and how it has to be delivered, is meant to offend, but it's meant for the saving of the souls. I don't believe, you saw at the beginning where, as in the days of Noah and as in the days of Lot, everyone was eating, they were drinking, they were, getting married, they were planning, they were building, they were going on with their life like we are doing now, not knowing that judgment had suddenly come upon them and they did not have the time to repent. This message is so important. And it is very important that each and every one of you listening to the sound of my voice take heed to it. And this is myself included, because the Ruach had me put this message together with fear. This is going to be a very sobering message. And so I want you to really take heed to this. So we're going to start off today's message with this word right here. Wait. So I'm going to give you a second to ponder on what comes to mind when you see the word wait. When you ponder on it, type in the chat, write down some notes. What comes to mind? Type in the chat, what comes to mind when you see the word wait? What happens? Write down some things. When you ponder on the word wait, what immediately comes to mind? Many of you have read the quote, from Isaiah 40:31. We've been talking about it a lot on this channel. Those who wait on Yah shall renew their strength. Okay. This sounds good, doesn't it? Those who wait on Yah shall renew their strength. Those who wait on Yah shall not be ashamed. Okay, so it sounds good, but let's be honest. No one likes waiting. In fact, I would be comfortable in saying that patience is one of the hardest fruits of the Spirit to bear, because it has to do with endurance, which again is what? It's waiting. Waiting, whether we like it or not, is an important concept in the Bible. So I want to give you a couple of examples. So we know Hagar, Abraham and Sarah, they had to wait until their ripe age. I believe Abraham was 100, Sarah, I think the scripture says she was 90, when the promise was made. And then 13 years had passed after the promise was made. So sometimes when Yah is telling us things and we're thinking, okay, this is getting ready to happen right now, remember, he's not on our time. Yah does not operate within the constraints of time, but what we do know is whatever he said is going to happen, because his word is reliable and true. So because Abraham and Sarah could not wait, Sarah asked Abraham to go into their servant Hagar. Okay. And that's the reason why when you read in the scriptures, it speaks about when he asked Abraham to sacrifice your only son. It wasn't Hagar, the slave woman. Okay. That's not who the promise was going to come through. It wasn't going to come through Ishmael. It was going to come, because Ishmael was his first son with his servant Hagar, his slave Hagar, but it was not, that was not the promised seed. Okay. The promised seed was Isaac. And so that's why he says your only son. Y'all didn't even acknowledge. He blessed Ishmael, but that's not who was the chosen one as far as whom the promise that he made was going to come to. But because Abraham and Sarah could not wait, they asked Hagar. The children of YahsharAL, they were told to wait, okay, while Moses went up on the mountain. And, he had to go and meet with Yah to get the scriptures, the word. And while he was up there, they're like, oh, we don't know what happened to him. We don't know what happened to him. The Israelites, we know, were not good at waiting. Well, anything could happen. We don't know where he at. So what did they do? They took off the jewelry and made a golden calf to worship. And they said, this will be the guy. We don't know what happened to Yah. We don't know what happened to Moses. They got tired of waiting because it had been a long time. So we know the Israelites, they were not good at waiting. And it cost many of them their life because they couldn't wait, because Yah was getting ready to destroy them all right then and there. And Moses pled with Yah. He said, if you do this, they're going to say their God brought them out to destroy them, for your name's sake. Yah said, he's always reminding them, for your name's sake. Okay. But when I was, while putting this lesson together and just remember how many of our ancestors had, issues with waiting, I think about like how they were no different from us when it comes to waiting. I want to give you a couple more examples. So when you go to the doctor's office, what's the first thing that you do? Okay, right. You check in with the receptionist. They tell you to sign your name on a list, and then they tell you to take a seat and to do what? And to wait. You're waiting. I know we all can relate to this. Then after you wait in the waiting room, when you're waiting, they tell you to take a seat and wait. Then they put you in a room that's named the waiting room. So you're waiting even more. Okay. And then once you've waited 30 to 45 minutes in the waiting room, then they send you, they take your vitals and all that. Then they send you to another room to wait some more. We've all heard the saying, the doctor will be in with you shortly, which is code for another 30 minutes or more. Okay. So they try to break up the waiting by having it in compartments. Okay, we're going to come in, check in, sit down in the lobby, wait. Then you go take your vitals, wait. Then you go to, your room, the examination room, and then you wait some more. All of this waiting, and then you talk to the doctor about 5 minutes. Another example, if you've ever gone to an amusement park, you know that you're going to spend a lot of your time waiting in long lines to get on this ride. If you've gone traveling, you're going to wait. You're flying on a plane. There's lines to wait to check in your bags, lines to wait when you go through, when they have to go through security, you're waiting even more for them to make sure that, everyone, when they get on the plane, there's no one that has anything, that could be potentially dangerous. All of those things, you're waiting even more. Then when you do that, you got to walk through the airport to get to where, your gate is. And then you're waiting even more. They have seats there for you to wait. And then when you get on then once they start calling you to line up, you're waiting to get on the plane, waiting to sit down, waiting for them to leave. There's a lot of waiting. So most of the time, again, is spent waiting, but people don't like waiting. So we'll do anything to reduce the amount of time that we have to wait. If it's within our control to reduce the amount of time to wait, we're going to do it. When we have to go to work in the morning, we're going to leave home for work earlier to beat the rush hour traffic because we don't like waiting. We would rather, we'll buy the prepackaged foods. If we want to make smoothies, prepackaged fruit, prepackaged vegetables, because we don't like to wait because it's the amount of time it's going to take to use fresh fruits. We'll microwave food, we'll buy processed food, put our health at risk. Pre-cut fruit, they have pre-cut watermelon already. Like we can't wait. It is so bad that we can't even cut watermelon on our own. Everything is waiting. Fast food, we don't want to wait. We don't want to cook food because it's going to take too long. So we order fast food. So and something else I thought about, even when it comes to just projects, if you need to use glue, if regular glue is not fast, they say, wait, we got you covered. We got super glue. It will dry faster than 5 minutes. We can't even wait 5 minutes for glue, regular glue to dry. So we got to get super glue, something that's going to dry in 10 seconds. Okay. So no one likes to wait, even though waiting is a part of life. And as you guys are listening to all these examples, I know some of you are laughing and you can relate to this because it's true. Okay. When we think of waiting, many of us often think of passivity. We think of being passive. We think of twiddling our thumbs, maybe fidgeting, maybe staring out the window. That Hebrew word is shakah, which means to be still. But in most cases, waiting in the Hebrew is not passive. It's not a word that is synonymous with doing nothing. When the Bible speaks of waiting, it's entirely different. It's not the waiting. Well, it is a waiting. So let me give you another example. So it's not the kind of waiting like when you go to the Secretary of State. The waiting that I'm speaking of today is not the kind of waiting like that one might experience if they're going to the Secretary of State and then, they give you a number and then you wait for them to call you. It's not that kind of waiting. It's not the kind of waiting that you would experience if you're going to a grocery store and you have to stand in line. doing nothing you're waiting for a register to open up or until it's your turn. This is not the kind of waiting that the Father is speaking of when we see waiting in scripture most times. In the Bible, waiting is closely tied to hope. Waiting in the Hebrew and in scripture is very active because it has to do with trust. Waiting has to do with confidence, and it has to do with expectation and anticipation of what we know and believe will happen or take place. It has to do with belief and faith. So let me give you a couple examples. Okay, so let's say you're working on your job. For most jobs, you get paid every 2 weeks or twice a month. Some are weekly, but nonetheless, most people are paid every 2 weeks. Okay, and so while you haven't gotten that paycheck and you're working those 2 weeks, you're not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs before you get the paycheck. You're doing the work, right? You're doing the work. You're doing what you've been paid to do, even though the money is not there yet. You're willing to work. Sometimes some jobs make you work 3 weeks when you start a new job before you get paid. And so are you just sitting there doing nothing and then you think they're going to just pay you? No, you have to do the work for those 2 or 3 weeks, and then they will give you the check. You work and you do the work because you trust and you have confidence and you expect and you are anticipating that when this 2 weeks is up or when this 3 weeks is up, if it's a new job, you have belief and faith that your employers are going to pay you. You wait with great anticipation for this check. Okay. And so I'll give you another example. What about a woman who has been waiting, let's say 2 to 5 years for, to be proposed to? Okay, this woman has waited with great anticipation for her fiance or for her boyfriend, who's someone that he has been courting, to propose to her. Many of you can relate with this. You've been waiting during the time you're courting someone. You're not doing anything. You're not doing nothing at all. He's courting you. He's taking you out to dinner. He may be doing things for you, showing you his love, kind of like how Israel showed, how Yah showed Israel, YahsharAL, that he loved them. And so during that 2.5, maybe 2 to 5 years, however long, some people get married a year or less than a year. Whatever you two decide, you weren't doing nothing for that time period. Okay. You waited with the belief and the expectation that they would ask you to marry them. So that's the reason why you hung around. Some women wait 5, 10, 15 years, and the man has not moved his feet to ask them to marry him, but they wait because they are anticipating, they are trusting, they have confidence and expectation, and they are anticipating that this man, because he said he loves me, he is going to marry me. So they wait, okay? And so no one waits in any of the examples that I provided without the expectation that whatever you're believing in, whatever you're hoping in and believing for, that it won't happen. You are confident and you trust that it will come to pass. No one goes into any situation where they have to wait thinking, oh, this won't happen. Unless the person or the thing that you're waiting on can't be trusted. Okay. Yah said, those who wait on him shall not be ashamed. So do we not trust his word? Is not his word reliable and true? So we want to now go into the Hebrew definition for wait as it is going to be used in context for this lesson. So the Hebrew word wait is kavah, okay, and it is used for making a rope. So it means tie or cord, okay? The pictograph, the shin, is a picture of the teeth representing pressure. And the resh is a picture of the head representing the top or the beginning. Combined, these mean press the beginning. And it talks about how ropes and cords, they're usually, made of bark stripes, such as from the cedar or from the sinews, the tenue. And so basically the rope is made by twisting two fibers together. And I'm not going to read all of this, just the part that I want to pull out, but it says it's the process. Let me go back here. The process is repeated through the length of the rope. The twisting of the fibers in opposite direction causes the fibers to lock. It causes them to press onto each other, making a stronger rope. The rope is used to tightly secure or support something such as a load to a cart or the poles of the tent. All right, so in this context, it says that it means to gather together, to look. So when you're waiting, you're not just doing nothing, you're looking, patient, you're being patient, you're waiting for. It means to collect, to expect. So when you're waiting, why do you wait? I've given you many definitions. You're waiting because you are expecting something. Nobody waits unless you expect. If I'm at a restaurant, I'm waiting. If they say it's going to be 25, 30 minutes, I'm waiting because I'm expecting to have a seat when this time is up. So it's patiently waiting, okay? Ecclesiastes 4:12 said a threefold cord is not easily broken. And so when you are waiting, those who wait on Yah shall renew their strength. We've spoken about this in a previous lesson. Is you actually and literally being tied together with Yah and the Father. A single strand can be easily broken, but when many strands are twisted and bound together, they form a rope that cannot or is nearly impossible to be broken. So because we're talking about biblical waiting and not worldly waiting, waiting again in the Hebrew word for waiting is the word rope, twisting, binding. It's a process of binding ourselves to Yah and Yahusha, becoming one with them, being in their likeness. The more we bind ourselves with Yah, the Father, and the Son, Yahusha, the stronger we become, okay? Remember, a threefold strand or cord is not easily broken. So that represents us being bound and being tied to the Father and the Son. So the reward for waiting, we can find in Philippians 3:20, it says, but our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await a savior from there, the master, Yahusha HaMashiach. And so that's why we're waiting. We're waiting because we're eagerly anticipating the return of our savior, the return of our master, Yahusha HaMashiach. And so now we're going to go into the parable of the 10 virgins. But that's in Matthew 25. But before we go into that, I want to go over a couple of words that I want you to be aware of their meanings before we go into that. Okay. And so to prepare is it means it's the word dig. It's kaf, and resh. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the hay in a moment. But prepare means to dig. It means bowl. The pictograph kaf is a picture of the palm of a hand, the open palm of a hand, and the resh is a picture of the head of a man. Combined, these mean palm of a man or palm of man. The palm as hollow, meaning set apart. It means also, this is the second definition, means to prepare a banquet or a feast. To prepare a banquet or a feast. I want you to think about that as we're talking about the 10 virgins. To prepare a banquet or a feast. So it was interesting that prepare means to dig. So where you see here, let me see if I can turn my light on. So we see Kaf, Resh, and Kaf, Resh, and Hey. Now, immediately, well, let me go to this other definition first. So it also means to examine. It means to examine. Now think about that. What scripture comes to mind? To prepare means to examine yourself to see if you are in the faith. Examine yourself to see if you are in the faith. So to prepare, again, is not doing anything. While you're waiting, you're preparing, you're digging, you're trying to find things that may be within you. You're seeking counsel from the Father. You're examining yourself to see if you're in the faith. You're looking deeply, it says, to look deeply. So preparing is not doing anything, right? Examine yourself. So to prepare means to examine yourself. I remember I was told to, I think this was back in 2020 or 2021. But I believe it was in 2020 where I was told to get up and prepare. And I actually did a message. Yeah, I was told to get up and prepare. So I remember I was sleeping. And I just heard in my spirit, the Ruach saying, get up and prepare. And it was like, get up and prepare. So, and that was that was 3 years ago. So when you're being told to get up and prepare, that means to examine yourself, to look deeply, dig, to destroy, break down. Like when he told the Israelites, tear down their pillars and their altars, getting rid of the things that are displeasing. So during the time of preparation, there's work to be done. Okay, right? It says to be prepared and ready, to be ready. It says to dig, a mole, a digging in the soil as a mole for a well or possibly a treasure. Also, a digging into an incident for understanding. So when you think about digging and you're trying to understand, we said study to show yourself approved, is when you're digging, when you are trying to find something, lose $100, and I bet you're going to tear your house up if you broke to find it. It's nothing that you won't do to find it. And so when we're seeking the face of Yah, we're digging, okay? We're seeking counsel from him. We're inquiring of him. We're going before him and asking him to open up our eyes to see things that are within us that we may not know. Okay, so you're digging for understanding. When you're doing this, when you're reading the word, is for understanding, so that you can apply it. It's not just so that I can read it. Okay, and so it says also a digging into an incident for understanding. To dig in the ground, also to dig into something as if searching for something. So we know what prepare means. Let me take this light off. Okay, so we're going to go into Matthew 25. We're going to be studying and breaking down verses 1 through 13, just the parable of the 10 virgins. Okay. Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were wise and 5 foolish. But the 5 foolish, having taken their lamps, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels along with their lamps. So we're going to break down the first 4. And as we go through, you will see that there's some words and there's some things that I'm going to break down to help us to really understand. I really understand this 10 virgins message better than I ever could have because of the quickening. There was so much that the Ruach gave me. I began to literally, I was overwhelmed because I had to pray and ask him how to put this together because it was so much information that was being poured into me. So it says that the kingdom of heaven is likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were wise and 5 of them were foolish. But the 5 foolish, having taken their lamps, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels along with their lamps. So before I break this down, I want to go into a couple of words. So we want to go into the Hebrew word virgin and what this literally means. There's an additional understanding that we need to get. It's, yes, a virgin is, virgin loins, a virgin, they call it a maid, a basula. But virgin in the Hebrew means work. Yeah. Virgin means work, and it means yoke. Now, it says the pictograph iron is a picture of the eye representing knowledge and experience. And the lamed is a picture of a shepherd's staff or yoke. Combined, these mean experience the staff. The yoke, a staff, is lifted over the shoulders and is attached to the oxen for performing work. Okay? So it also says here that it is a young female at the prime age for work. So a virgin is a young female at the prime age for work. Notice that it says a virgin is yoked to the staff, the shepherd's staff, the lamed. This represents the Yahusha. Okay? He is the shepherd of the sheep. Okay, he is the shepherd, that ox. Okay, he directs, he prods, he, push you in the right direction. So he teaches. And so the virgin represents knowledge and experience of the shepherd. Okay, that's the shepherd's staff represents Yahusha. Okay, and so being a virgin is one who has knowledge and experience of the shepherd. They are yoked to him. They are tied to him, as we talked about being binded to the covenant. So I want you to think about this. So it is spelled Bet, Tav, and Lamed. Let me go back here. It's spelled Bet, Tav, and Lamed. So you see, I put that up there. The Hebrew words next to, look up there next to where I have virgin on the left. From right to left, it is Bet, Tav, and Lamed. And as I was looking at that, this is the definition of what a virgin is and what the Ruach, this is what the Ruach gave me, nobody else. Those in the house, because the Bet is the house, the Tav is the covenant. It's the covenant sign. Okay, the Lamed is the shepherd's staff. It represents Yahusha. And the Ruach said, those in the house, the virgin represents those in the house. Those are in the house or the family of Yah who are in covenant with Yahusha. That's what it literally means to be a virgin. So I want you to think about that as we are on this message of the 10 virgins. A virgin, and this is what the Ruach gave me when we look at Bet, Tav, and Lamed, and what we now know that a virgin means work, and they are yoked. They are those who have knowledge and experience of our shepherd, Yahusha. They experience the shepherd. They experience the staff, which represents directing and teaching. They're attached and they're ready to do the work. Okay, So those in the house, or though being a virgin represents, and this is what the Ruach gave me, it represents those that are in the house. Those are in the house or the family of Yah who are in covenant with Yahusha. So if you are not, if you say I believe in Yah, but I only believe in the Brit Hadashah, I don't believe in the New Testament, I don't believe in, if you're anti-Messiah, you're not a virgin. You're not a virgin. And it doesn't matter if you have not had intercourse. If you have rejected Yahusha, you are not a virgin. Because a virgin represents those that are in the house, those that are in the family who are in covenant with Yahusha. This is the literal definition of what it means to be a virgin. Okay? So let's talk about the oil. Oil means to press. Okay? It means to shine. We talked about this, the glory of Yah. When he says, let your light shine, you are a candle on a hill. Don't dim your light. We are supposed to be the salt of the earth. We have the oil. It means to shine. The olives, it says, are pressed to extract the glimmering oil. So in order to get this olive oil, the olives have to be pressed. They have to be beaten. Okay? That there's a pressing that has to take place in order to get pure, glimmering oil that really shines. There's a process that has to happen, okay? And it represents, and I've shared with you before, the oil is symbolic of, and it represents the outpouring, the measurement though, the measurement of the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, the set apart spirit of Yah. Okay, let me say that again. The oil represents the measurement and the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, the set apart spirit of Yah, the Holy Spirit. Okay, it is the measuring, it's how much you have. And we know his Ruach represents power. So let's go over lamp. Lamp in the Hebrew means to plow. We've been talking, all of these things that we're seeing now, this message is coming back full circle. It means to plow. It means light. Okay. The pictograph Nun is a picture of the seed. The Resh is a picture of the head. It represents man. It represents the top or the beginning of something. Combine these means seed beginning. All right. And I'm going to go here. So water is necessary for the seed at the end to begin germination. So we've been talking about this a lot. We've been talking about this a lot with plowing. And we just got finished talking about this and getting the seed ready. When we spoke about the breath, when we spoke about what happened in Genesis and what really happened in creation. And so lamp, it says, is an oil-filled container with a wick that gives off light. A lamp can be light. It can also represent a person, the nature of a person. It can represent progeny, all of those types of things. So it represents different things, and you'll be able to see a couple examples I'll show you in scripture that represents lamp. It says in scripture, in context of what we're reading in Matthew 25, it means a torch, a lamp, the flame of which is fed with oil. So a lamp is the flame of which is fed with oil. So you can have a lamp but have no oil. Do you understand what I'm saying? A lamp is just the vessel. But you can have a vessel and have no oil. You can have a lamp and have no oil. I want you to think about oil and what we now know that oil is. It means to shine. It represents the measuring and the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh. We know that man has to be baptized by both water and by spirit, by fire, which represents, again, that flame, the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay? We know in the tabernacle that flame and that fire could not go out at all. The part of the priest's job was to make sure that that incense kept burning, that candle stick, the menorah in the sanctuary, in the holy place, had to keep burning. They could not go out. So a lamp only has a flame that is fed with oil. So you can have, if we think about your body, you can consider yourself to be a lamp. But if you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, if you don't have the Holy Spirit, the set apart Spirit of Yah, what good is it? How much power are you going to have? How much shine are you going to have? Where is your salt if you don't have the Ruach, if you don't have the set apart Spirit of Yah? Your flame is going to go out if you even had a flame. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's important for us to understand these terms and get a full understanding of what they mean, a deep understanding, so that you can accurately apply this parable to your life to measure where you are. Okay? In context, it means to shine, to beam, a radiant brilliancy. So this is a bright light, probably like a blinding light. Remember when Moses came off that mountain, he was glowing so bright, they were scared of him. He was shining so bright. He was in the presence of Yah for 40 days. How can you not? There's no way you can sit in his presence for 40 days straight and that's all you doing, nothing else, and not have that light on you. He had to cover himself. So let's reread Matthew 25, 1-4, and then I'm going to begin to break down and give you the understanding that the Ruach HaKodesh has given me. Okay? Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise and 5 foolish. But the 5 foolish, having taken their lamps, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels along with their lamps. Now, so we see in verse 4 that the wise, okay, so all 10 are virgins. Okay, all 10 are virgins. All 10 are yoked. All 10 have work. Virgins mean work. Okay, so remember what we've learned when you apply this. Virgins mean work. They all have work to do. Now, keep that definition, not what you thought before, what you know now. They all have work to do. They were all virgins. But 5 of them were wise. And 5 of them were foolish. Okay? Remember, virgin represents those that are in the house, those that are in the family, those who are in covenant with Yahusha. That's what it means, Bet, Tav, and Lamed. They're in the house, all 10 of them. They're in covenant, all 10 of them, right? They are yoked. They have work to do. 5 of them were wise, and 5 of them were foolish. So it says the 5 foolish, having taken their lamps, took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels along with their lamps. So again, we see in verse 4 that the wise virgins have something accompanying them that the foolish don't. Let me say this again. When you look at verse 4, it says the wise took oil in their vessels along with their lamps. Look at verse 3 again. The 5 foolish, having taken their lamps, they took their lamps, but they took no oil with them. Remember with the definition that we just got finished reading, that a lamp is a flame that is accompanied with the oil. Remember, we just read that. So again, in verse 4, we see that the wise virgins have something accompanying them that the foolish virgins don't. Okay. Let's keep going. But while the bridegroom was delayed, now pay attention, they all slumbered and slept. So we see here the bridegroom has delayed. He is delaying. He's not here. So in context, this means that he's tarrying. He's lingering. He's taking his time. It says to take time. He's taking his time. Just like Yah is taking his time with us. What would we all be if he did not take his time? None of us would make it. He's lingering and he's delaying for a reason. While the bridegroom was delayed, taking his time, they, meaning the virgins who have work to do, they all slumbered and slept. So all of them have slumbered. All that means they've gotten drowsy and they're sleeping. The only difference is the wise virgins are sleeping, but they got oil in their lamp. The foolish virgins are sleeping and they haven't prepared. They're not prepared because they don't have oil in their lamp. We're going to see that. It's their lamp you're going to see is going to be running out. And at midnight, there was a shout. Some of your scriptures may say a cry. There was a shout. Behold, the bridegroom comes. Go out to meet him. So, midnight in context is literally the middle of the night. Okay. How many people do you know get married in the middle of the night? Because I'm like, well, why is he coming in the middle of the night? I don't know anybody that gets married in the middle of the night. So what was revealed to me is that midnight represents our master coming at an hour that we do not expect. It represents an unexpected hour, like a thief in the night. Okay, that's what this represents. Yahusha returning, the bridegroom returning at midnight in the middle of the night with a shout, represents him coming at an unexpected hour, at a time that we are not aware of, like a thief in the night. Remember Yahusha's chilling words in Matthew 24:43. He said, but understand this. If the master of the house had known the time of the night that the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Okay, so this should be very sobering for you. Let's talk about the word cry or the word shout. Okay, we're going to talk about this. It says that he's going to come in the middle of the night, a time that is unexpected. And it says at midnight, there was a shout. Behold, the bridegroom comes. Go out to meet him. In context, shout means a word of command. So this is a command. It's a call and a rousing outcry. He's crying out. We've been talking about the voice of the shepherd, crying out, a cry of incitement. It's a word of command. It's a command, a call. Many are called, but few are chosen. So at midnight, it says that there was a shout. Behold, the bridegroom comes. And this what came to mind. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 says, for the master himself shall descend from heaven with a shout. This is talking about when he returns. He's going to return with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of Yah. And the dead in MaShiach shall rise first. So those who are dead at that time when Yahusha return are going to be the first ones to rise. Okay, this has to do with first fruits. Okay, he's our master. Yahusha is going to, in that hour, descend from heaven. He's going to come down with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of Yah. Okay, and you're going to be asked to go out and meet him. We're going to be caught up. I'm not talking about no rapture. And we're going to be changed. Our bodies are going to be changed at that moment. Okay. So let's talk about lamp representations. Okay, because many things can represent the lamp. Earlier in this lesson, I told you that a lamp can represent the instructions. It can represent the light to shine, that flame. It can represent progeny. But a lamp can also represent a life. It can represent a life. When you read Job 18, verse 5, it says, indeed, the lamp of the wicked is put out, and the flame of his fire does not shine. Indeed, the lamp of the wicked is put out, and the flame of his fire does not shine. So do you see this? The lamp of the wicked, this is referring to a life. The lamp is his life. His life is put out. The life of the wicked one is put out, and the flame of his fire doesn't shine. It doesn't shine, because you have to, what did we learn earlier for a lamp to shine? It said that it is ignited by, that flame is ignited by the oil. If you don't have the oil, which is symbolic of the measuring of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, you're not going to shine. Okay, you're not going to shine. So Yah is saying here in Job 18:5 that the lamp, the life of the wicked is put out, and the flame of his fire does not shine. Okay. So now we're going to go to the 7 churches of Revelation, because Yahusha gives a warning to many of these congregations. And interesting is what he has to say for this congregation, the congregation of Ephesus. Okay. And he had an ought against them. In fact, Ephesus, the congregation of Ephesus, was the first congregation that he addressed. And what did he say to this congregation? Let's go ahead and read Revelations chapter 2. To the messenger of the congregation of Ephesus write, these things says he who holds all things, and the 7 stars in his right hand. He is walking in the midst of the 7 golden menorahs. So these menorahs represent the congregations, okay? And he says, I know your works and your labor. So he's speaking to Ephesus. Now, when you think about these 7 candlesticks that are lit, each one is representative of the 7 congregations. And the first one he addresses is the congregation of Ephesus. He says, these things says he who holds all things, and the 7 stars in his right hand. He walking in the midst of the 7 golden menorahs. I know your works and your labor and your patience, and that you cannot bear evil ones. And you tried those pretending to be apostles and are not, and found them to be liars. So he's letting them know the things, first off, that he's pleased with them. He says, I'm pleased with the fact that you've labored. Okay, that you have patience, that you don't bear those that are evil. You tried those that pretended to be apostles and you found them to be liars. Okay, so you tested the spirit to see if they were of Yah. You have patience. Okay, you've borne the burdens on account of my name, and you didn't get tired or wearied of doing so. He says, nevertheless, I have something against you. I have an ought against you. He says, you have left your first love. Okay, the greatest command is to love Yah, the Father, with all our heart, soul, and mind. The congregation of Ephesus were, the charge against them was that they left their first love. And what's interesting is the fact that he's addressing Ephesus. And what I noticed when you read Ephesians, oh, well, let me finish reading. Let me read verse 5. Remember, therefore, for where you have fallen, and repent and do the works you did at first. You go back to this. Remember, therefore, what you did. Remember, therefore, from where you have fallen. Repent and do the works you did at first. He says, if not, I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place unless you repent. So to leave your first love is a sin. You don't want your lampstand to be put out. He says, I'm going to take it away. They were doing everything else, but they had left their first love. He says, remember, therefore, from where you have fallen, repent and do the works. Remember, a virgin, I don't want to keep sounding redundant, but remember, a virgin are those that are in the house or the family that are in covenant with Yahusha. If you're in covenant, that is a marriage. So who wants to be in a loveless marriage? Who wants to be married to someone that they stopped doing the works that they did at first? They were warning you at first. They were showing you love and kindness and respect at first. And they were doing all of these things to get you. And then once they got you, they stopped doing it. This is what he is saying. Repent and do the works that you were doing at first. Remember, virgin means work. It means you're yoked. So if you're yoked to him in marriage and covenant, he wants us to do the works that we did at first. He says, repent and do what you were doing at first. He says, if not, I will come to you and remove your lampstand. So again, this is a virgin because they were in covenant. They were yoked to Yahusha. He's acknowledging that. But he says, you have stopped doing the works. You're not doing what you was doing at first. I'm not pleased anymore. What bride or what wife or husband want to be with somebody and they just don't act like they don't care no more? They're not doing any of the things that they were doing at first. This is what he's saying. He says, if you don't repent, I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place unless you repent. Now, what's interesting is Ephesians 4:30. And I made the connection. Ephesians 4:30 says, do not grieve the Holy Spirit of Yah, the Ruach HaKodesh of Yah, in whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. It is by the set apart Spirit of Yah that we are sealed into the day of redemption. You have to have the Holy Spirit. That is the measuring and the outpouring of the oil. How much do you have? It's the question. Is it a little bit, just enough to get by? Because if you only have a little bit, are you going to have enough for this journey to be able to endure to the end to be saved? Are you doing things in your life that will grieve the Holy Spirit to the point where it leaves? That's your oil that's left. No oil represents no light. Okay? You don't have light to get there. Are you gonna, what I made the connection that the congregation of Ephesus that he's addressing, which is the first one of leaving their first love, it's the same thing. Ephesians 4:30. This is the same congregation. Ephesians and Ephesus. Ephesians 4:30 says, do not grieve the Ruach HaKodesh, the set apart spirit of Yah, to whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. You're sealed by the Ruach HaKodesh until the day of redemption. You need to have that oil in your lamp. If you are a virgin, you have to have oil in your lamp in order to be able to make the journey, because that is how you're going to be able to see where you're going, because this word is a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your path. If you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, you're not a son or a daughter, because those that are led by the Spirit of Yah are the sons and daughter of Yah. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh, because that is how you are sealed into the day of redemption. We're going to learn what that means. That's how you'll seal until that day that he returns to come back and get you, because you have it there when he returns. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Then all those virgins arose. Okay, I'm hoping you guys can hear me. And then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. All those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. So we're going to go into what it means in context when it says that these virgins trimmed their lamps. In context, trim means to put in order. So we know that a lamp can be you, your vessel, your body. It can be the progeny. It can be the person. It can be your life. Okay? And so trim means to put in order. It means to decorate. It means to adorn yourself, to put in proper order. To decorate, especially to snuff, to get rid of those things. So it says, then all those virgins arose. The bridegroom has shouted, it's time for you to arise and go and meet him. And then they get up. All of them get up, all 10. They arise, they trimming their lamps. Okay, getting things in order, right? Trimming has to do with trimming off the part of the wick, the burnt part of the wick that will cause your lamps to grow, to become dim or to go out. I'll give you an example. When we had the power outages recently, this was, I had to put candles up, and I remember the second day, my son was saying, "Ma, this is not shining as bright." He was like, "You know, this is not shining as bright as it was yesterday. It's not the same." And I'm like, "Well, it should be." And I'm looking at it, because he said it had started to burn down. It was still the wicker there. But when you trim that wicker, the part that's burnt off, then the light is able to shine more brightly. And so trimming, getting things in order. Do we wait if he tells you to prepare? To prepare means to be ready. So do we wait until Yahusha gets here to think that we can prepare then? Is that what we do? When you think about the context of the virgins, the foolish, and the wise, do we wait? Do we begin to put things in order on the moment that, and right at the very moment that he arrives, or do we do these things in advance? Okay. Then the foolish one said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." So the foolish virgins, as we see, didn't have enough oil. So their lamps went out. So I want to use this example to help you to understand this. What happens if you're driving? Let's say you got to go on a long drive to somewhere very important, and you have to be on time. You have a deadline. It's an important meeting. You cannot miss this meeting. It can mean life or death. Now, although you knew that this was going to be a long journey, you had some gas in your tank for the journey, but you didn't fill it all the way up. What's going to happen? Are you going to be able to make this journey? Because once you're on this journey, this is not where I get to keep filling up on. What happens if you're driving and there's no other stations and you have to fill up and you don't put oil? What's going to happen? Are you going to make that journey? I've been driving, and this was recently. I was driving and I'm driving and not even realizing. And sometimes it happens that I didn't really have no gas, and I hear the ding, 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 and I'm thinking, what is it? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm like praying that I can make it to the station, because I'm like, I don't see any gas stations around, and I was in the middle of rush hour traffic. That's a scary moment, to be in the car and to not know if you have enough gas or oil in your tank to get to where you need to be. So them trimming, again, their lamps, putting things in order by, and I want to go, like, there was someone, I was looking up some things as far as with lights, just to prepare for this. And so when you trim the wick, the light is able to burn purely and brightly. And so what they would do is that they would trim their wickers and they would cut off the burnt part. So let's say if you have a candle, you light it and you use it a couple of days, and then it becomes darkened and black and burnt. You will cut that off. Okay, cut off the dead part, cut off the burnt part, cut off that part that's no good, that part that would hinder that candle from shining even more brightly. And so when we think about the tabernacle, again, the priest could not allow the lamp, that lampstand, the menorah, they could not allow it to go out. So they had to constantly be watching to make sure that it did not go out. The fire of incense, again, had to keep burning. So when you think about trimming things and examining yourself and trimming out, cutting things out of your life, removing things, removing people, cutting things out that are not good for you, things that would be a hindrance to your salvation. I want you to think about the word trimming. So the foolish, they didn't have enough oil. Okay, they didn't have enough oil. So they said to the wise, give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out. Remember, the foolish did not have, we learned earlier in verse 4, they didn't have the oil accompanying them. It was only the foolish the wise who took oil with them. So they're like, well, give us some of yours because our lamps are going out. Okay. So let me just say, so again, just to clarify, the virgins trimming their lamps is symbolic of them examining themselves. It is symbolic of them removing sin from their lives. Anything that would grieve the Ruach HaKodesh, anything that would grieve the set apart spirit, anything when we think about ourselves that will cause the set apart spirit of Yah to leave or to go out. That's what it means. Okay. We're going to trim off anything out of our life, cut off anything out of our lives. Because even in the camps, if it was something wrong, you walking this, you're going to be cut off. He says you're going to be cut off. You saw it, you heard Yah, you read that in scripture over and over. You're going to be cut off. Why? Because a little bit of leaven leavens a whole lump. So it's symbolic of the removal of sin and anything that would grieve the Holy Spirit and cause it to leave, that will cause it to go out. Okay, leave. So when you leaving your first love, when we think about that, to grieve your first love means it leaves. So you think about if you've been in a relationship with someone and they have grieved you to the point you've been trying to stay, you've been trying to hang on, trying to deal with them, and then finally they just won't do right. And then you finally have to leave. That's what this is speaking of. So they like, well, give us some of yours. Give us some of your oil. our lamps are going out. Okay. But the wise answered, saying, no, at least we not have enough oil for us, but rather they tell them, look, you go to those who sell it and buy for yourselves. And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. So those who were ready are those who had oil, who had the ruach with them, accompanying them. Okay, they had oil, they had a full measure, and they had enough. Okay, and it says that the door was shut. And afterwards, the rest of the virgins also came, saying, Master, Master, open to us. But answering, he said, truly, I say to you, I do not know you. Therefore, be alert, for you do not know the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man comes. Remember, he said, it's going to come like a thief in the night. You don't know when I am going to come. So again, we learned, let's recap this. It is by the Ruach HaKodesh, it is by the set apart spirit of Yah, the Holy Spirit, that we are redeemed, okay? The 5 foolish virgins, they were destitute of the Ruach HaKodesh. They were without his spirit. They did not have the Ruach HaKodesh accompanying them, okay? Without his Ruach, what do Yahusha tell us? He said, you will not see salvation. He told us you will not see salvation. He said, truly, truly, I assure you, I tell you, unless you are born of both the water, okay, and the spirit, the Ruach, you cannot enter into the kingdom of Yah. Okay, so they were not truly born again. The 5 foolish virgins were not truly born again. Yahusha told them that he is going to go and to prepare a place. He says, do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in Yah and believe in me. There are many rooms in my Father's house, and if not, I would not have told you so. For I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I am coming again and will receive you to myself, that where I am, you may be also, and where I go, you know, and the way you know. Now, what did he say in Acts 5? Who has a right to have his spirit? We are witnesses of these things, and so is the Ruach HaKodesh, meaning the Holy Spirit, whom Yah has given to those who obey him. Yah gives his Holy Spirit to those who obey them, who obeys him. So these 5 foolish virgins, at some point, they had the Ruach, but it was leaving out due to their disobedience, due to them not having a love for the Father and the Son. We learned in Ephesians 4:30, do not grieve the Ruach HaKodesh, to set up our spirit of Yah, by which you are sealed until the day of redemption. Okay? Yahusha has gone to prepare a place. He is gone. And if he said it, it is so. And so if we want to meet him there, we're going to need oil. If we want to go where Yahusha has gone, we are going to need oil. Let me say this again. Yahusha has gone to prepare a place. He told us that in John 14:3-4. Just got finished reading it. So if we want to go where he's gone, if we want to go to that place that he is preparing, because in his Father's house, he said there's many mansions. If we want to meet him there, if we want to make this journey, we're going to need oil. Again, the oil represents the Ruach HaKodesh. And that's the reason why he said he only gives his Ruach to those who obey him. And with his Ruach, or without his Ruach, you have no fire. Let me say this again. Without his Ruach, you have no fire. No fire, no flame. No flame is because you have no oil. And this is the reason why, while the foolish virgins who were not wise, who didn't carry oil with them, did not have the Ruach, they wanted to go and buy, and they go away to buy, and it's too late. He said, be ready. He didn't say, get ready. Be ready, be prepared. Do the work so that when I'm here, you're ready, you're prepared. Okay? You're ready. There's work that we have to do as virgins. We're not just twiddling our thumbs until Yahusha returns and doing absolutely nothing. He's placed gifts in each and every one of us. We all have a different calling. We have gifts and we should be doing the work of the harvest. And then we are in relationship with him and the Father. We're studying to show ourselves to prove there's much work to be done. He said the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. Many of us are not doing the work. And then when he comes back, he's going to ask you, what did you do? Because in this same parable, it goes into the talents immediately right after this. I've given you talents. What have you done? And he called the servant wicked and lazy because you didn't do the work. So it is by the Ruach HaKodesh that we are sealed. That's why he says in Hosea 4:6, and my people perish for lack of knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Again, Ephesians 4:30 says, do not grieve the Ruach HaKodesh. Do not grieve the Holy Spirit of Yah, because it is by the Ruach that you are sealed until the day of redemption. Do you know what redeem means? Redeem literally means open the door. Did you know that? I like to fell out my chair. Redeem means to open the door. Pay dalet. The pictograph pay is a picture of an open mouth. The dalet is a picture of a door. Combined, these mean open the door. When one is redeemed, they gird on their clothes for leaving to bring back to an original state. Again, what this is literally saying is if you are not sealed by the Ruach, meaning if you do not have oil, if you do not have the Ruach HaKodesh, the door will be closed. That's what this means. It will be closed. It will not be open. If you do not have the Ruach HaKodesh, the set apart spirit of Yah in you, you are just a lamp that either has a flame that's getting ready to go out if you're continuing to sin and not repent and grieve, or altogether. To redeem, you are sealed by the Ruach HaKodesh until the day of redemption. The sealing is the oil. The oil is the Ruach. To be redeemed means open the door. It literally means the door is open. It's an open door for those. That's the reason why the wise virgins who in Matthew 25 verse 4 had oil, the Holy Spirit accompanying them. That's why the door was open for them. But those who did not have oil, who oil left, the Ruach left because they grieved it, the door was shut. He said, I don't know you. I don't know you. Remember, the virgin is one who is ready for work, one who has experience and knowledge of the shepherd, has experience and knowledge of Yahusha, who is in covenant in the house, in the family, who is in covenant with the shepherd. Do you understand this? All of this is coming together. I like to fell out my chair when I saw this. To redeem literally means to open the door. They're out there bamming on the door, the foolish. Open up. The door is not open to you because you don't have the oil. Having the oil is a measuring of the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh. That is what causes you to endure to the end to be saved. So they were really, truly not saved. Okay, how many times have you seen people in church? Everybody in church is not saved. Everybody that's sitting up in the pews with you is not saved. Everybody that's shalom and caning is not saved. Look what it says here. When you look back here at the bottom, where I have it boxed, when one is redeemed, they gird on their clothes for leaving to bring back to an original state. Luke 12:35 says, Let your loins be girded about and the lamps burning. Let your loins be girded about and the lamps burning. Keep your lamps burning. Let your loins be girded about. We know we talk about your loins be girded about with truth. So this was very eye-opening. Let me say this. If you are walking in darkness, if you are living in unrepentant sin, if you have rejected his salvation, Yahusha, and his testimony, Yah's very own testimony about his son, one or two things are happening. Either you have no oil or your oil is running out altogether, because the oil has to do with faith. It has to do with amunah. That's what faith is in the Hebrew, amunah, which is your belief in the one that he, Yah himself, has given the authority to take YahsharAL as his bride. Yahusha said, when I return, will I find faith on the earth? YahsharAL. You can not buy faith, okay, which is the oil. You cannot buy faith, which represents the oil, on the day of judgment. That's what the foolish virgins did. They waited until the bridegroom came back, and then they wanted oil. They wanted to go buy oil. We cannot wait until Yahusha returns to try to repent. We cannot wait until then to trim our lamps, to try to get things in order, to prepare. Okay, when the shout has gone out, when the cry has gone out, when the call has gone out. Can't do it, because when he returns, it's going to be too late. Without the Ruach, which is the oil, there's no wisdom. Okay? Without the oil, there's no understanding. Without the Ruach, there's no understanding. Without the Ruach, if there's no understanding, there's no knowledge of Yah, because Proverbs 9 and 10 says knowledge of who Yah is understanding. If there's no Ruach HaKodesh, there's no discernment. You cannot gird up your loins with truth, because you don't know how to discern between error and truth, because discernment comes from the Ruach. Okay, that's why you got people, oh yeah, and it said the seed of David, and yeah, and yeah, and sex is marriage, and yeah, that's why they confused, because they don't have oil in their lamps. They're just lamps that are talking, that the flame is dying or gone out altogether. Okay, you stop looking at the outward appearance. Because somebody is carrying a lamp doesn't mean, is there a flame there? Is it lit brightly? Are they shining? But you cannot, without the oil, you cannot yield to the leading of the Ruach. So that's the reason why you have people that are contentious and belligerent, because they don't have the Ruach, because they don't have oil. They sit around and argue with those who do have the oil, because they cannot discern. Okay, and so remember, those who are being redeemed have their loins guarded about with the truth. They're on their way to being restored back, because it says that you're being restored back to your original state. We're talking about the original state that Adam and Eve was in before the fall, before the house, before the kingdom was divided. Okay, how did Satan divide that kingdom? Through disobedience. Okay, they have their loins girded about with truth, and they won't cover their loins. They don't need to cover their loins, because they're not ashamed. Because I'm trying to think about what we talked about before. Because they're covered in righteousness. They have faith in his testimony, and their lives are witnesses of their belief in him. Your life is a witness of your belief in him, no matter what you say, no matter what your lamp looks like, how you decorate your lamp on the outside, and wear your head wrap, and have your mitri on, and speaking Hebrew, and keeping Sabbaths and feasts. Your life is a witness of your belief in him, and your life is a witness of your, not only of your belief in him, but also your belief in him returning. Many do not believe he's returning. That's why they live their life like he never existed. because they really don't believe. When you live your life in disobedience, unrepentant sins, you're living your life like you don't believe that he's returning. This world does not believe that he's returning. That's why he says in the days of Noah and Lot, they were eating, drinking, marrying, doing everything under the sun, going on with life as usual, disregarding the warnings of Noah and Lot, and they just, they were all destroyed. They were destroyed. Okay, again, redeem means open the door. They was at that ark with Noah. Okay, open up and let us in. Y'all shut the door. The door was shut. That ark right there was the door being shut on Noah's generation. Okay, because they did not want to gird up their loins with truth when he was trying to witness with them and pleading with them. Okay. So let's talk about the difference between the 10 virgins. Okay. There's some things that Yahusha made clear. And I have this diagram here that I created to kind of help you to understand. So when Yahusha returns, we know, and he said in his word, that we have to be born by both water and fire. When he returns, you must assuredly, most assuredly, have true faith, true saving faith. That's what the foolish virgins didn't have, true saving faith. Because I used to wonder when I was growing up, and you see everybody in church, and I'm like, well, how is this person saved? Didn't they get baptized? I'm like, they still smoking and getting drunk, still fornicating, still in the club, like still mistreating people, lying, still late. Nothing has changed, but they go to church every Sunday. I'm like, what's different? They worldly, carnal, like, and I used to wonder, and they was like, well, they saved because, they said the prayer and they got baptized. And it's like, that's not salvation. True salvation is belief in what his word says. Your life is a witness. You walking according to his word, but he says you have to endure to the end to be saved. It's true saving faith is endurance. You have to continue in those things and continue in your love for him until the end, until he comes to redeem, and then the door will be open. But how you know someone is truly saved is the fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit are evident that you are being saved, okay? Because you have to endure to the, nobody is saved yet. You're on your way to being saved. Paul said we are being saved. If you are developing and growing the fruits of the Spirit, that's evidence that you are being saved. But on the surface, everyone in church looks saved. On the surface, when you attend many of the congregations, especially in this awakening, many give off the appearance of walking upright. Many give the appearance that they're serving Yah. Everybody shalom and everybody Canaan, everybody Shabbat shalom, and they're keeping the feast days and get the head wrap and speaking Hebrew. They're doing all of these things. Everywhere, everybody is shouting hallelujah. But then when you speak to them or you watch, more closely how they move outside of the assemblies, now you find out they don't believe in the MaShiach. Now you find out they don't believe in him being the only begotten son. Okay. Now you find out that they believe sex is marriage. Now you find out they have rejected salvation. I don't believe in the New Testament. Oh, well, Paul's saying, because he they don't believe. You find out they are not true believers. They don't, you find out that they don't believe in the only begotten son, and that they have rejected the New Testament. When you dig, okay, because we talk about the word, what it means to dig, when you prepare, you're digging. When you dig even further, you find out they're fornicating, using profanity, they haven't repented of their sins, they're still in the club, like just all of this. You see on the surface that they're really not saved. Yes, there's a process that we all go through, and it doesn't happen all, it's in stages. But as you can't be, I've been doing this, I've been in truth 10, 20 years, and you still fornicate. That makes absolutely no sense to me. You still stealing, you still mistreating people. You don't know how to walk in love. You don't know how to show mercy. Let me say this. On the surface, all 10 virgins, because we're talking about the difference between the 10 virgins. On the surface, all 10 virgins are very similar. All 10 of them have lamps, okay? And all 10 of them, what the scripture says, fell asleep. But the major difference is one group has oil and the other group, although they had some oil, they didn't have enough oil to get them to the bridegroom. These are those who grieved the set apart spirit until it left. Remember Yahusha's warning when he said, not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. He says, on that day, many will say to me, I did this in your name. I prophesied in your name. I cast out demons in your name. I did all these works. I did all these things. And then the scriptures tell you, and this is Matthew 7, verses 21 through 23. The scripture says that Yahusha will say, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who worketh iniquity. You are who are lawless. You practice lawlessness. See, we often think that being ready for Yahusha is a distinction between those that are inside of the church versus those that are outside of the church. But when we read Matthew 7, 21 through 23, what I just read, not everyone who says, Master, Master will enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay, everybody's not going, the door not going to be open for everybody because you say, Master, because you say, I did this. I prophesied in your name, I cast out demons, I did all these things. And he says, I never knew you, depart from me. When we think about being ready, when we think about, his return, and you think about, well, I don't need to get prepared because I go to church. I sing in a choir. When we think about the distinction between when we talk about being prepared, we think that this is a distinction between those that are in the church versus those that are outside of the church. But when we read Matthew 7, verses 21 through 23, what I just read, not everyone who says, Master, Master will enter the kingdom of heaven. On that day, many will say, I did this in your name, I did that in your name. And he's going to say, I never knew you, depart from me, you who are lawless. From this scriptures and verses that I just read, it's clear, it's very clear that this is not so. Let me clarify what I just said. When you look at this diagram, okay, because this and what is happening in Matthew 7, 21 through 23, and I actually was shown a dream. In a dream, this what happened in Matthew 7, where he said, depart from me. I actually saw this, a woman being judged. But let me clarify for this. This is actually the church. This is within the assembly. Okay, this is within the assembly. This is, see, remember the tabernacle. If you look at this and think about the tabernacle, there was an inner court and there was an outer court. Okay, the foolish virgins are a part of the family, but they're on the outside. They're not in the inner court because that takes confession, repentance, laying it on the altar, your life, giving it up, being a new creation, being cleansed, and then you enter into the holy place. Then you begin, that's symbolic of your relationship and your covenant with Yahusha. He is the door to the Father because that veil separates man from Yah, who is in the holies of holies, the most holy place where the very presence and the set apart spirit of Yah resides. The foolish virgins, again, they're all virgins and they all had lamps. But this represents, they were part of the house, but they were outside. They were cut off. The door was shut. When we think about distinction, we think about getting prepared. You're thinking, I don't need to get prepared. That's for those who are in the world. Those are those who don't go to church. No, this is talking about there is a within the body itself, there are those who need to prepare, but they think they don't, that this does not apply to them, when it really does. Remember, all of Israel was not Israel. Okay? There are those who are YahsharAL, but they are not upright. They are not the upright, firm tree. They're not walking upright, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be cut off. They're going to be trimmed off. There's only going to be a remnant that's going to be saved. So we think about this. We think about, oh, well, that's for them. No, he's talking to the congregation. Yahusha is walking in the midst of the congregations, his churches. He's not dealing with the world. Okay. So, in this parable of the 10 virgins, the emphasis is truly about those from within the supposed body that call Yahusha their master. That's why he said, not everyone who calls me master is going to enter in. This parable is about those that are in supposed body of Yahusha, their master, but they don't do anything he says. They're not doing the work. These are those who are awaiting his return. They're awaiting his return like the wise, but they have lived their lives as a bride that didn't have any work to do. They're as a bride that didn't have to prepare, as a bride that thought that they could be lazy, and then when he come, then they maybe could prepare it in. How many times you heard people, I'm not ready yet. Well, I'll do that later. Like you, how you know when you leaving? The goal is to not change your outward appearance. Okay. And this is not to say that Yah doesn't care what we look like outwardly, because he does. He cares how we dress, how we look on the outside. But the goal is to truly be born again, to be a new creation. And that only occurs inwardly. Again, the 5 foolish brides, although they accepted the proposal of the bridegroom, they never prepared. They accepted the proposal, but they never prepared for the wedding. I repeat, the 5 foolish brides lived their lives they lived their lives again, like they had no work to do. Okay. So a virgin, again, is a woman that is prepared for the work. You're prepared to do the work. You're in covenant. You're in the house, the family of Yah, and you're in covenant with Yahusha, and you're doing the work. Okay, that's what it's. So we're going to continue to keep that in mind, as we continue to go forth. Okay. So they were waiting, but they were doing they weren't preparing. They were waiting for his return, but they were still in the world. He had revealed truth to them, but they had rejected the truth. They were still in the clubs, in church, singing the choir, but still in the clubs. They had not come out from among them. Okay, they had not separated themselves. They were waiting for Yahusha's return, but they were preparing for their careers, preparing to be the boss, to be in charge, worrying about getting paid. That's all they were concerned with, is their money. Okay. We are the lambs. But if we do not get ourselves ready, we're not prepared, we will have no oil. I want to talk about the disciples' understanding of waiting, because this was kind of like, when I read this, it's like, okay, they were going through a lot of the same things that we went through. So this is, and then indeed, coming together, they question him, Master. So the disciples are questioning Yahusha, do you restore the kingdom of YahsharAL at this time? And he said to them, it is not yours to know times or seasons which the Father placed in his own authority. But when the Spirit of holiness comes upon you, meaning the Ruach HaKodesh, you will receive the power, and you will be witnesses of me, both in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. And saying these things, as they looked on, he was taken up in a cloud and was hidden from their sight. And as they were intently looking into heaven, having gone, even behold, two men in white clothing stood by them. So they were looking intently into the heaven as Yahusha ascended back to the Father. He's gone back to the Father. He told them to wait and to watch. And so they're taking this literally. They're staring. Can you imagine somebody just staring at the sky and they're not moving and just sitting there watching and staring because they didn't know as far as the time. And so it says, having gone, even behold, two men in white clothing stood by them, who also said, men, Galileans, why do you stand there gazing into the sky? This Yahusha was taken up from you to heaven. Likewise, he will come just as you have watched him, who ascended into the heavens. So they said, just as you have watched him ascend, go up into the heaven, he is going to return. He's going to return, but they were literally standing there watching. So let's talk about the faithful and wise servant. Who is the faithful and wise servant? Be dressed and ready for active service and keep your lamps continuously burning. Be like men who are waiting for their master when he returns from the wedding feast, so that when he comes and knocks, they may immediately open the door for him. Blessed are those servants whom the master finds awake and watching when he arrives. I assure you and most solemnly say to you, he will prepare himself to serve, and he will have them recline at the table and will come and wait on them, whether he comes in the second watch or even in the third, and finds them alert. Blessed are those servants. So, what kind of stood out to me, what it says, be ready, be dressed and ready for active service, and keep your lamps continuously burning. Be like men who are waiting for their master when he returns from the wedding feast. So I'm like, well, when he returns from the wedding feast, I'm like, well, who? That means he's already married. If he's returning from the wedding feast and he's telling them to return. So I was a little confused. I'm like, okay, isn't he going to have them, get them and take them to the wedding feast? It's like when he returns, like you're waiting for him to return. And so Peter asked the same question I was thinking. Like, Master, are you addressing this parable to us, meaning us, the disciples, or is this to everyone else? Because he's thinking, well, aren't we going to be, in the marriage ceremony with you? Who are you addressing? And the answer is he's really going to answer them with both. The master said, who then is the faithful and wise steward, whom his master will put charge over his household, to give his servants their portion of food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master finds so doing when he arrives. I assure you and most solemnly say to you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if that servant says in his heart, my master is taking his time in coming, and begins to beat the servants, both men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers. And that servant who knew his master's will, knew what he was supposed to do, yet did not get ready, did not act in accordance with his will, he says he's going to be beaten with many lashes. But the one who did not know it and did things worthy of a beating, sometimes you do something you didn't know, but it was wrong, but you still got beat anyway. He said they will only receive a few. From everyone to whom much has been given, much has been required. So if he's giving you much, much is required. And to whom they entrusted much, of him he will ask for more. So when he trusts more to you, when he trusts you with his word, he trusts you doing things. If y'all trust you, he's going to ask for more. Do you know people expect more from people that they trust than people who are not trustworthy? I've always said I felt like that, with me and my calling, that people expect more from me than they think that I should expect from them. People expect me, I have to carry myself a certain way. I have to walk a certain way. People sometimes forget I'm human. This is the same thing. But y'all saying the way When he trusts you with more, then he's going to ask for more. That's like somebody giving you work and it's hard work to do. And you do that hard work and it's like, no, it's not no rest. Now I got more for you. That's what this is basically saying. So he's saying, who are you talking to? Peter said, when you saying, who is then the faithful and wise steward? So he answers them. He said, who then is the faithful and wise steward? Who has the master put in charge over his house to give his servants their portions of food at the time? Who is Yah chosen to be stewards over his house? Who did he give charge to rule over the nations? Okay, is this not YahsharAL? And to give the portion to those who are also joining themselves, their portion at their time. We were supposed to be teaching the nations. We were supposed to be. When you read Romans, he said you consider yourself to be knowledgeable in the Torah. You saying don't steal, but yet you stealing. You commit adultery. He said you make my name blaspheme. We were supposed to be the light. He called us to be in covenant, to be and to be a light unto the nations. That's what our whole duty was. When you read Isaiah 42:6, that's what our whole duty was. We were supposed to be teaching. Other nations were supposed to see us and see how blessed we were. It's not the other way around where they have to teach us Yah's word. It was given to us. It was given to YahsharAL. We're supposed to know it more than anybody else. He is giving us a royal priesthood, a holy nation set apart. There's an inheritance that comes with being a father, a son or a daughter of the king. We're the ones that's during the millennium that are going to be ruling and reigning with Yahusha over the other nations that are saved. It was not the other way around. He says, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. That wasn't given, that charge wasn't and promise wasn't to the nations to be over us and to be ruling over us. He says, but if the servant says in his heart, my master is taking his time coming and begins to beat the servants and the women and the men and the women, you eating and drinking, you get drunk, you doing everything else. And then on the day that the master come in an hour that you do not expect, he says you're going to be counted with those who are unbelievers. No unbeliever is going to see the kingdom. He said the servant who knew his will and did not get ready or did not act in accordance with his will, he will be beaten with many lashes. But the one who did not know it and did things worthy of a beating, he will receive only a few. Okay, so whom much is given, much is required. So he requires much from us because we are the ones that he enter into the covenant. He has done so, it says in scripture, with no other nation. So now we're coming to the pinnacle of this message, the bride and the friends of the bride. Who is the bride of Yahusha and who are the friends of the bride? Has YahsharAL been replaced? Because people say that we have been replaced. I want to show you through scripture that YahsharAL most certainly is still the bride of Yahusha. Revelations 19 verses 7-9 reads, let us rejoice and let us exalt, and we will give glory to him, because the marriage of the Lamb came, and his wife has prepared herself. And it was given to her that she be clothed in fine linen, pure and bright, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. And he said to me, right, blessed are the ones having been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these words of Yah are true. So who is the bride of Yahusha? Okay, who is the bride of Yahusha? And one of the 7 churches came to me, he having the 7 bowls being filled with the 7 last plagues, and spoke with me, saying, come, I will show you the bride, okay, and the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me. So this is John. Okay, John is being shown. Okay, he says, I'm going to show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And John said that the angel carried him in the spirit on a great and high mountain. He showed me the great city, holy Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from Yah, having been the glory of Yah. And his light was like a very precious stone, as jasper stone, being clear as crystal, and having a great and high wall, having 12 gates and 12 cherubs at the gates, and names having been inscribed, which are the 12 tribes of the sons of YahsharAL. And the city had no need of the sun, nor of the moon, that they might shine in it, for the glory of Yah illuminates it, and its lamp is the Lamb. So even the Lamb in Revelations 21, verse 23, is referred to as a lamp. Yahusha is being referred to as a lamp. It is the bride of Yahusha are the 12 tribes of the sons of YahsharAL. Okay, we're looking at it. Forget about what people are telling you. Does this mean that others who are not YahsharAL are not saved? No, they are the friends of the bride. He says, come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. Who did he say is the wife? It is the 12 tribes of the sons of YahsharAL. And their lamp is the Lamb. Do you see this? And now in verse 24, now it's going into the rest. And it says, and the nations of the ones who are saved will walk in its light. And the kings of the earth bring their glory and honor into it. Who is this talking about? Nations. In its context, in the context, it's talking about the Gentiles. It's talking about the heathen nation. Are you looking at this? The heathen nations. Okay, these are the ones that are saved. Look at the bottom. A race, a tribe, especially foreign, non-Jewish, non-YahsharAL, Gentile, heathen nations. Okay? And all of YahsharAL is not YahsharAL. All of Israel is not Israel. Because there are going to be some that are blood descendant YahsharAL that will not be a bride because they didn't qualify, but they will be saved. The nations who will be saved. There are many other nations, people who are serving Yah, who love Yah, who are clinging and joining to YahsharAL, that are serving him with the truth that he has given them, that truly love the Father, that are going to be saved. It's not, salvation is not just to us only. Anyone who loves the Father and walks according to his word will be saved. But the bride, let's be very clear, is YahsharAL. He is going to remarry that same bride, as he said in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 33, in Hebrews chapter, I think it's 8 through 11. He's going to take that same bride again. It tells you he is going to take that same bride. You read those two scriptures that I just said. It tells you he's going to renew that covenant again with the same bride. The promise will be fulfilled. Genesis 17:7 reads, I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you, to be your almighty one and to be the strong authority of your descendants that are after you. Yah says in Judges 2:1, I will never break my covenant with you. He just gonna trim off. He gonna trim the lamp off. That's why it says at the end of the harvest, he's gonna, those who don't bear no fruits, the angel's gonna come gather you up and you're gonna be taken off and burned in the fire. The part that's no good. That's why it says all of YahsharAL is not YahsharAL, because YahsharAL literally means Yashar, which means the upright ones of the strong authority. He says, Yah says, I will never break my covenant with you. Exodus 27:20, and you are to command the YahsharAlites to bring you pure oil of beaten, pressed olives for the light, to keep the lamps burning continually. So they had to bring the priests olives that had been beaten, that had been pressed, remember, so that the lamps can burn. That's the only way that the lamp, that you can get pure olive oil, because remember, you need the oil in order to keep the lamps burning. So the olives had to be pressed and beaten. 1 Kings 11:36, when we talk about the olive tree, because Israel, the two houses, the house of YahsharAL and the house of Ephraim, the house of Yehuda or Judah and the house of Ephraim, which is also referred to as YahsharAL, the 10 lost tribes. The two houses are the two witnesses, because people always, is it Joshua? Is it Elijah? No, it's the two houses. The Ruach revealed that to me when you read that in Revelations 11. The two houses are the two witnesses. Okay, he says, I will give one tribe to his son, so that my servant David will always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem. This is a promise that Yah has said. He said, I will give one tribe. See, he wasn't going to destroy both. That's why he divorced the northern kingdom. He did not divorce the southern kingdom, the house of Yehuda with Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. He did not divorce them because he had to leave a tribe for himself to come back through. That's why he said, I will give one tribe to his son, so that my servant David will always have a lamp. David was from the house of Yehuda, from his father Jesse. He said, I will give one tribe to his son, so that my servant David will always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city where I chose to put my name. It says that in 2 Chronicles 21:7, that Yah was not willing to destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he had made with David. And since he had promised to give a lamp to him and to his descendants forever. So in context, this lamp again means to glisten, to light. Same thing. Now look what it says here. Lamp, always use figuratively of progeny. Lamp, in context, it means always use figuratively of your progeny, of your descendancy. It says, so that David, my servant, may always have a lamp. So when he's talking about a lamp here, it's talking about having a descendant, progeny. See this? A lamp always used figuratively of progeny. Okay. So while what I want to say is this, we are lamps. YahsharAL. We are lamps. We are the chosen lamps. But if we carry no oil, what good is it? While we are waiting, meaning with anticipation, with expectation, with the expectation of his return, we should be preparing. We're working out our salvation. We're working out our salvation. Let me say this again. As a virgin, one who is in the house, the family, in covenant with Yahusha, one who's doing the work, one is yoked to him. While we're waiting and with anticipation and with the expectation of Yahusha's return, we are preparing. We are working out our salvation with fear and trembling. We are putting our houses in order. We're trimming our lamps. We're trimming anything that will hinder our lamp from not burning brightly. We prepare like a bride while we wait. Chosen lamps, YahsharAL. We prepare like a bride who knows that her groom is coming, who she knows, and we prepare like we know we get ready to get married. You are gonna, when you know you've been proposed, when he's giving you the engagement ring, what do you immediately do? You begin to prepare for the wedding. Except when we prepare, we know the date. This should be even more sobering because we don't know the date. And we should think, if I'm not prepared and I don't know the date, it could be tomorrow. If I'm not ready, the door is going to be shut. What bride does not prepare? What bride does not make sure that she has the perfect dress? What bride walked down the aisle with spots on her dress? What bride wears a dress that's torn, that's ripped, that's dirty, that's not clean, that's wrinkled? Who? Show them. Show their faces. Come on now. Where they at? Not one. In John 8:12, Yahusha says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. When we were reading Revelations and we were reading about the bride, it says in the end that the lamp is the Lamb. Adam and Eve fell. Let me read this. There's another one I want to read. After these things, I saw 4 cherubs standing on the 4 corners. I'm reading Revelations chapter 7. I saw 4 cherubs standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on every tree. I saw another cherub coming up from the rising of the sun, having a seal of the living Almighty Yah. And he cried with a great voice to the 4 cherubs to whom it was given to them to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we seal the servants of our Almighty Yah on their foreheads. And I heard the number of those having been sealed, 144,000 having been sealed out of every tribe of the sons of YahsharAL. I'm having a scary thought right now while I'm even doing this. There's been a lot of wind lately. Have you noticed that? I told you not long ago when I showed you that he has already begun sealing his servants. He's already been sealing his servants. He says, I heard the number of those having been sealed, 144,000 having been sealed out of every tribe of the sons of YahsharAL. They're sealed first. But they're not the only ones. Because right after that, in verse 9, it says, and after these things I saw, and behold, a great crowd, which no one was able to number, out of every nation, not just our nation, out of every nation, even tribes, peoples, tongues, different languages, standing in front of the throne before the Lamb, having been clothed with white robes, and in their hand palm branches. Do you see this? YahsharAL, the 144,000, the bride is first. There's more than 144,000. Some people say, is that literally or figuratively? I'm just going by what the scriptures say. All of YahsharAL is not YahsharAL, but the 144,000 who have oil in their lamp, whose fire have not burned out, that they're on fire. That's why he says, you know, I wish that you were either hot or cold, but because you're neither, you're lukewarm, I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. take that literally. He means it. He literally means it. Lukewarm means your oil is half filled in your lamp. That's not what he desires. He wants you to love him with all his heart, with all your heart, soul, and mind, to be on fire for him. Jeremiah said, I had fire shut up in my bones. YahsharAL, the 144,000, 12,000 were sealed from each tribe. They were sealed to be redeemed so that they can go in to the marriage. And after these things, he said, I saw a great crowd. No one was able to number them out of every nation and tribes. These other nations are going to be those who, there will be some who will be at the wedding, because you don't have a wedding and don't have no guests. This is going to be a, you talking about a wedding, ain't no a wedding you seen on earth going to be like that. We're going to have the guests, the other nations who are going to be there that are saved, that Yah has deemed had enough oil in their lamp to attend. And the rest that did not are going to have to wait until he comes back. Remember, Peter, well, are you talking to us or are you talking to them? He answered them, who is a wise servant? Who did I say was going to be over my house? Who's going to be feeding the other nations and giving them their food, which is the meat, the word? Who is this? Who was that promise given to? He is no other nation. He has made no covenant with no other nation. But that does not mean, because through our fall, others were able to come in. That doesn't mean that the salvation is only to us. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Adam and Eve lamp went out when they fell because their eyes dim. They can no longer see the way they saw before. Why do you think we need to wear glasses? When we go back to our original state, we won't need glasses. We won't need a light to see, because we're going to be in the presence of Yah and Yahusha. The light, the lamp is the Lamb. Adam and Eve's lamp went out when they fell. Everything changed. By trimming your wicks, the light is able to burn purely and brightly so they trim their lights again to burn more brightly. So let's talk about the purpose of the gifts. This is Ephesians 4:11-14. And indeed, he assigned some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some evangelists, some shepherds and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the building up of the body of MaShiach, until we all may come to the unity of the faith and a full knowledge of the Son of Yah, to a full-grown man, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Yah, so that we may no longer be like children, being blown around, believing every wind of doctrine, false doctrine from men, who through their craftiness are very skilled in deceiving people. There's a lot of people that are within this awakening that are crafty, just as crafty, if not even more craftier than the ones that are in the Christian churches that y'all complain about. Something that I want to pay attention, that I want to bring your attention to here is verse 13. The purpose for these gifts is not for you to build yourself up, not for you to put prophet at the beginning of your name. I'm super duper prophet, and for you to be glorified. The only reason why you have these offices, these gifts, is so that you can edify and build up the body of Yahusha, those that are in the house, those that are in his covenant. Because if you're in covenant, you're one with him, okay? Until they all come to the unity, okay? Come to the unity of the faith and of the full knowledge of the Son of Yah. We have to come into full knowledge of who he is. Because if we don't know him, I can tell you most assuredly, he's not going to know you. Point blank, period. We have to come into maturity. He's not marrying a 5-year-old. You have to grow up. He's not marrying a bride that is not a virgin, that is not at the age and is ready and prepared for work. Okay, we have to measure to the stature of the fullness of Yahusha. There are standards. He has standards. And if we don't measure up to the standards, you are not going to come into full knowledge of who Yahusha is. Are you understanding this and seeing how this Ephesians 4 and the gifts and how coming into the full knowledge of him? This is about us coming into the unity of the faith, because those that are virgins, they are in the house. They're all in unity in the house, in covenant with the Son, Yahusha, the shepherd. We learned this earlier. That's why I went over those definitions so that you can really have a not like the regular understanding, the dictionary understanding. We need to understand this from the Hebraic perspective, because this puts this whole, I'm understanding if you are feeling that way, type it in the chat. I understand this 10 virgins message greater than I ever did. I thought I understood it until the Ruach gave me this. I didn't understand it half of what I thought I understood. Okay, you have to come into the full knowledge of who he is. There are standards. And if you do not come up to the standards, you're wasting your time. He is the source. Without him, you have no power. Without the Ruach, you have no power. Like a plug and a socket. You can have the most high quality product. You can have, oh, this TV costs this much. I paid $5,000 for this smart TV and for this device. Let us have a power outage. You can have, how great is that TV if it's not plugged into the socket? How great is it? If the power goes out, how great is that television when you plug it in? Is it going to work? Absolutely not. You might have a laptop, high quality laptop. Let the power go out. You might have 100% battery life, but just like the Ruach, if you don't plug into the source, eventually that battery life is going to decrease all the way until it shuts off on you. Yahusha is the power. He's the arm of Yah. You have to know him. Again, you have to come into the full knowledge of who he is. You have to know your bridegroom. This is not married at first sight. This is not, I get married to somebody that I don't know. If he does not know you, don't let this show fool you. If he does not know you, this ain't no I'm getting married and I've never, no. If he does not know you, you're not getting into the kingdom. The door will be shut. There will be no marriage. You will not be a bride if he does not know you. You have to prepare. When you're waiting, when you get married, you're preparing. The moment you get that proposal, you're preparing. You and your bridesmaids, your best friends, your mom, you're looking for dresses, you're trying on dresses, you're checking your dress for fitting. You and your potential prospective bridegroom, you're meeting with the wedding planner. Why? Because you are preparing for a wedding. So when you know you've been proposed and you know that the wedding is set, you're going to prepare. No one gets proposed to and know you're getting married and not prepare for the wedding. There's much work to be done. Anybody who has been in a wedding, or if you couldn't afford a wedding planner, you know how much work. You know how much work it is to put together a wedding, how much money it costs. But when you think about counting the cost, everything that you went through was worth it. You know, testing the cake, you know, making sure the food is ready. All of it was worth it to get to this point, to get to the banquet, to get to the wedding. This is the goal. Everything you was waiting on, you was waiting, but you wasn't twiddling your thumbs. Weddings don't look like this for somebody that didn't plan. No. There's a lot of work that goes into a wedding to look like this. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's people who, you know, couldn't afford someone to cater, and they had to cook it themselves. I've known people who have done the wedding, they had to do the cooking. They had to buy their own dress and, you know, do the decorations and do that. That's a lot of work. You normally, the friends of the bride are helping out. They're assisting, they're servicing you, the friends of the bride and the groom. This is the end goal. This is the end goal. So in a Hebrew marriage, there are two. I want to talk about I'm going to kind of combine what we know about the Hebrew marriage and then the end time harvest, okay? Because there are two harvests. There are two harvests or two stages that happen at the end. The first harvest, when you read Revelations chapter 2, verse 26, it says that he that overcomes and keeps my works, he that overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations. So there's two harvests, and it happens in two stages. The first, well, actually there's three, but the first harvest is the first fruit. This is the finest of the crops. This is the elect of YahsharAL, okay? They are the bride. They are the first fruit. They are changed to meet him in the air. Happens immediately after the last trump, the scripture says. They are the bride that are given rulership over his household, because Peter was confused. Are you talking to us? Or are you talking to them? Okay, this was a promise that was given to YahsharAL and YahsharAL only. They are the first fruits. That's why when you read in scripture, you see YahsharAL seal first, and then it goes into the other nations. Okay. But then the second harvest is the general harvest. Okay. This is a general harvest. And I'm going to go back in there. But that's a general harvest. So that's the multitude, innumerable multitude that is folks of that was told to watch and to feed until he comes back from the wedding. These are those that are when Yahusha come back from the wedding that are waiting for him to return. They're the ones that are going to be fed by YahsharAL. They weren't given the charge. The other nations were not given the charge to rule over us. And I know this is going to be a message for some people too. They don't understand. This is not a message of hate or anything like that. But Yah has not gotten rid of his people. He is never going to break covenant. He is going to still renew the covenant with those same people. They will be the bride. I've already shown you that. So if you want to argue against this, you're not arguing with me. You're arguing against the word. Okay. So the second harvest, again, is the general harvest. The first fruit is the first harvest. Then the second harvest is the general harvest, the multitude. These are those who are going to be fed. Okay. These are the ones that they're going to be given the word to. Then the third harvest are those that are going to be taken away into judgment. Okay. When you read this parable, it ends with it talks about the two that are grinding in the mill. It says one is going to be taken and then the other one is going to be left. So remember when I did the teaching, send a sickle. So at the end of the harvest, he's coming away. He's coming to take them away in judgment. So when you seen the movie The Left Behind, that's incorrect. Because the ones that are left behind are the ones that are going to be fed. And they're told to watch until he returns from the wedding. We read that. Okay. The ones that are taken away, not left behind. Left behind got people all backwards. The ones that are taken away are the wicked. Those are the ones that the scripture says the angels are going to harvest up at the end and they're going to be burned in the fire. But the ones that are left behind, they're told to watch, but still keep preparing and to be ready. Keep your lamps burning until I come back from this wedding, the first harvest. Okay. So now let's talk, now that we have that backdrop, let's talk about in the Hebrew marriage, there are a number of steps. The first step is the betrothal. That's the engagement. It involves the prospective groom traveling from his father's house to the home of the prospective bride. Okay, so the first step is a betrothal. The prospective groom is going to travel from his father's house to the home of the prospective bride. Step 2 is paying the purchase price, okay, which they sometimes refer to as a dowry when they pay that, which this is how they establish the covenant, okay? The father pays the groom's, the bridegroom's, the father of the bridegroom actually pays it, okay? Let me say that again. The father of the bridegroom pays it. This is so through paying the purchase price, they are establishing the marriage covenant. Then step 3, the bridegroom returns from the where he returns to the father's house for an unknown specific period of time. So let's recap these first 3. Step 1 is the betrothal. Okay, this is the engagement. This is the prospective bridegroom. The groom is going to travel from the father's house to the home of the prospective bride, the woman he wants to marry. Step 2 is paying the purchase price to be able to marry her. So the father of the groom, in order to establish the covenant, has to pay the price. Okay. All right. This is how it is established, paying a price. Then step 3, after he has paid the price, he returns to the father's house for an unknown specific period of time. Step 4, the bridegroom at a specific period of time returns for his bride. He's coming back for his bride. And then step 5 is the consummation of the marriage, and this is the celebration. Okay, so the groom in step 5, he returns to his father's house to consummate the marriage, and then there's a great celebration. The betrothal has already happened, guys. I want to tell you where we are right now. The betrothal has already happened. The engagement, that's already happened. Paying the purchase price has already happened. He paid the price when he spilled his blood on that tree. That's why it says your body is not your own. Because he already paid the price for us. When they celebrate the wedding, when we look at step 5, they celebrate it for 7 days. That's when you get Sukkot and Tabernacle. Let me say this again, because I don't want to lose anybody. What I'm going to say is going to put everything in perspective. It should be sobering. If you're drowsy, this should be waking you up. Steps 1 through 3, I repeat, have already occurred. The first covenant was already made and established. The Father Yah has already paid the price of the bride with the life of his only begotten son. Okay? That's why the scripture tells you in 1 Corinthians 6:20 that our body is not our own. He says you were bought with a price. Do you understand what that means now? That you were bought with a price? He paid for it. He gave his only begotten son up. You were bought with a price. Yahusha has already returned to his father's house, because after he gave up his spirit, he returned and ascended back to the Father. Do you realize where we are right now? We're right here between steps 3 and 4. That's where we are right now. I'm giving you a story so that you can see where we are in time. The first covenant was already established. You understand? He's already paid the purchase price. His son, he already gave up his life to sever that first covenant so that eventually it can be renewed. Yahusha has already returned back to his father's house. He sits now at the right hand of his father. Step 4 hasn't happened. That's where we are, right here, waiting for our bridegroom to return. Do you see that that the time is running out and we really think we got time to play around? Do you see this? Yahusha has already returned to his father's house. We are now, we're at the door of step 4. Do you realize that? We're at the door of step 4. Yahusha says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. Your life reveals if you don't expect his return. I don't care what you say. Your life reveals if you don't expect his return. Your life reveals that. How you live your life right now reveals whether you expect his return or not. If you're doing the work, if you're keeping that fire burning in your relationship with him, spending time with him, spending time in the word, studying, praying, fasting, worshiping, praising, feeding his sheep, doing what you've been called to do, edifying the body with your gift, doing the work, trimming off your lamps, trimming your wicks off your lamp, trimming off and and cutting off sin and removing things from your life that will grieve the Holy Spirit, the set apart spirit, until it leaves. Are you doing these things? Are you doing these things? Everything about Yah and his relationship with his people is revealed through the relationship of a husband and a wife. His design, that's his design for marriage. It is seen through Adam and Eve. It is seen through the structures of the tabernacle, how it's set up, the cycles of the feast days, the Sabbaths. These are all moedims and rehearsals for us getting prepared for the real event, being the bride of our everlasting King Yahusha. Do you realize where we are? Do you guys realize where we are? I don't think people realize where we really are. I don't think so. Because we're getting close to the end. I have something that I want to say. When we did the study on Judges was, I literally was overwhelmed with Judges. I want to read a scripture. I told you that everything that Yah has had me doing has lined up with right exactly at the time for what it is he's placed in me to prepare. So I told you for the past couple of weeks that I've been reading 2 Kings, 1st and 2nd Kings. I'm done with that. And so I asked the Ruach, I said, Father, what do you want me to read next? And immediately I heard Jeremiah. So I began reading Jeremiah. And as I began reading Jeremiah chapter 2, my spirit was so quickened. When I tell you, and I promise you, I'm getting ready to show you, it's lining up with this lesson that he gave me. And I was just in awe. It's a combination of like many lessons that we've learned. So we're going to go and read Jeremiah chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. And the word of Yah to me saying, go and cry in the ear of Jerusalem, saying, so says Yah, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your espousals, when you were betrothed to me, when you were going after me in the wilderness, when you were chasing after me like someone's chasing their beloved. He said, in a land not sold. He said, YahsharAL was holy to Yah. The first fruit of his increase. And we are the first fruit. That's why you see the scriptures that I read, we're first. He says that we're the bride, the wife. You're the first fruit of his increase. All that devours him become guilty. Evil shall come on them, declares Yah. Hear the word of Yah, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of YahsharAL, virgins. So says Yah, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they went far from me and walked after vanity and have become vain? Has a nation changed its almighty one, and they were not an almighty one? Who has changed their almighty one and they're not, you don't have the authority. You're not the strong authority, but what nation has changed it? He says, but my people, they have changed my glory without profiting. He said, be amazed at this, O heavens, and be horrified. Be completely desolated, declares Yah. For my people have committed two evils. What are the two evils? They have forsaken me, and they have forsaken the fountains of living waters. That's Yahusha. They have dug cisterns, their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. Is YahsharAL a servant? Remember when Peter said, who are you talking about? Who is the faithful and wise servant? Who are you talking about? Are you talking to us? Or are you talking to the other people? Yah asked the question. This answer even further what Yahusha said. Because he said, those that I've given charge over to rule. He said, is YahsharAL a servant? Are you a servant? Did I enter into covenant with you? Don't you have inheritance as a child of the king? That even Adam and Eve, Adam had authority to name the animals. Even us in our fallen state have authority to rule over animals and things like this. Yah is saying, is YahsharAL a servant? Or is he a servant of the house? Are you the one that's in charge? Or are you a servant of the house? He said, why then have you become a prey? You are the prey. Is YahsharAL a servant? Or is he a servant of the house? Did Yah enter into covenant with us so that we could be a servant of the house? Are we a servant? Are other nations to rule over us? For long ago, he said, you broke your yoke. You were a virgin. Remember, we learned earlier that virgin means yoke. You are yoked. The one who is in covenant, in the house, in covenant with Yahusha, the shepherd, who had knowledge and experience of their shepherd. He says, you broke your yoke. You broke your covenant. Because he says, you tore up your bond. We were twisted. We were bound. We were one together, remember? He said, you said, I will not transgress. He says, but on every under high hill and under every green tree, Yah says, you lay down like a harlot. He says, yeah, I planted you a choice vine. You are a holy, true seed. Remember, we were talking about that about 3-4 weeks ago, about the true seed and the hibernated seed. Remember, you see all of this is coming back together. He says, I planted you as a choice vine, a holy, true seed. He said, I plowed, I cultivated, I broke up the fallow ground, I broke the soil up. I placed a watchtower there. I removed the rocks. I removed anything that would hinder you, like someone who trims their lamp so that that nothing can hinder the lamp from shining brightly. He says, I removed the rocks. He said, but all I yielded was rotten grapes. I did all of this work. He said, I planted you as a choice vine. That's the best vine, a true seed. He says, how then have you turned into the deteriorating shoot of a foreign vine to me? I don't even know who you are anymore. Have you ever been with someone and you thought you knew them and you like, oh, who are you? Who did I marry? This is not the person that I married. Who are you? Look what it says. Remember, I want to bring back up what we learned about the true seed. Remember, what is true to seed? True to seed refers to plants whose seeds, when planted, produce plants with the same characteristics as the parent plant. For example, a tomato seed collected from a tomato plant that was not cross-pollinated with another variety will produce the same type of tomatoes as a parent plant. See, we can't cross-pollinate. We can't mix. Light and darkness don't mix. Good and evil don't mix. That was the sin, the division in the kingdom, mixing good and evil, light and darkness. In the beginning, Yah separated light from darkness, and he says that it was a good thing that light was separated from the darkness. Light was the first thing that was created. It says a true to seed plant refers to plants whose seeds, when they're planted, they produce the same plant that has the same characteristics as the parent plant. Yahusha, Yah is our Father. He says in the beginning, we were created in his image and his likeness. We were created to be like him, to have the same characteristics as him, to be like him in every way, not just outwardly look like him, but inwardly, everything about us was like him. Do you see this? And then when the fall of the kingdom, the kingdom divided, because that was at the beginning, the division of the kingdom began with Adam and Eve. That's why it refers to as the fall of mankind. Then you saw that the ground was cursed. Now the seed does not yield what it was doing before. Do you see this? He says, though you wash yourself with potage and you multiply soap for yourself, he says, your iniquity is stained before me, declares Yah. How can you say I am not defiled and I have not gone after Baals? He says, see your way in the valley. Yah says, know what you have done. See how you've been treating me. Know what you have done. He said, you are a swift camel crisscrossing her ways. I remember when I first read this the other day, I was rolling laughing with this one. Yah said, you are a swift camel crisscrossing your ways. A double-minded man is unstable in all their ways. Do you see this? When you read Judges, and we did the study, and did in-depth study, we did the whole study. It says that in those days, that there was no king in Israel, and every man did what was right in his or her own eyes. When Yah says, read in the ear the words of this book, because at the beginning of Jeremiah, he told them to read in the ears of Israel. We've been talking about ear. We've been talking about hearing. We've been talking about all these things are just come all back together. When Yah says, read in the ear the words of this book, the purpose of the word goes beyond just reading it. We've been called to ponder on it. The world calls it meditating. We've been called to ponder on the word. We use what we understand from pondering and reading and studying to show ourselves approved, and what we have learned. We use that to apply. What we have learned, we are using it to apply it. It should be used as a measuring stick to show us the standard that we are expected to come up to. When we go to seek the face of Yah, we're not going to seek him to come with our own ideas. When we come to seek him, we go with humility to seek counsel from him. We're seeking counsel from he who knows all things. We seek his face to inquire of his will and to learn his ways. But more importantly, and first, we seek his face in humility for repentance. We learned before that seek means to swell. It means a swelling desire, to inquire. That means you have a swelling desire to know him. I was looking up king, according to the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, and it means to reign. A king means to reign. It means to reign among the people, to reign over a kingdom as a king or a queen. And it also says that it means counsel. King means to reign. That means you reign over a people. I don't think our people realize that we have a king. When I think about what's going on in this awakening, and I think about, remember Pharaoh and Herod, and they were trying to kill all the Hebrew boys. We don't need a Pharaoh and a Herod. Pharaoh and Herod today don't need any assistance with trying to stop the promise of Yah. They were trying to stop the promised seed of Yahusha from coming because they heard that he was coming. We don't need any help from Pharaoh or Herod today. We don't need anyone. We don't need their help trying to stop or to halt the promise of Yah, because we got these wicked Israelites doing all the work. Okay, when you're rejecting Yahusha, you're trying to stop and halt the promise. It's as if you're murdering. Woe be unto them that cause the least of these children to not come unto me. It'd be better that you had a mule stone hung around your neck and be at the bottom of the sea for that man. In order for you to reject the word of Yah, you have to literally convince yourself that your word, meaning that your teachings, are greater than Yah's word and his teachings. You have to literally convince yourself that your testimony is greater and is truer than Yah's testimony of his son. I was watching something, and you know, when you try to warn people, you can't judge me. And I just was like, okay, here we go again. We live in a time where everything is called judgment. The world hates truth. The world hates accountability. They hate truth and they hate accountability. But let me say this. Holding you accountable and warning you is not judgment. Holding you accountable when you're wrong and warning you when you're in sin and on your way to hell is not judgment. Because I'm not the judge. I can't levy a sentence against you. But the true judge, he is on his way. And he is coming back with a sword. And he's coming back with his rewards according to what you have done on this earth. Although we will be judging in the millennium, I can promise you this. If you are not living right, and you are not living right when you do stand before the judge, you're going to wish that I was judging you, because I don't have the power or the authority to take away the body and the soul. You're going to wish that you took heed to this message today, because his judgment will be final. His judgment will be irreversible. There will be no begging and pleading at that time. Remember Matthew 7:21-23. I prophesied in your name, I cast out demons and blah, blah, blah. I never knew you, depart from me. Warning you is love. Stop taking your understanding of what love is from the world. Warning you is love. Holding your brother or sister accountable is love, is not judging you. Only a reprobate mind will cause someone who cares about their soul judgment. Doing what is right in our own eyes is what got our people scattered. It's what's causing our people to never make it out of the wilderness. That's why those dry bones lay there today. Doing what is right in our own eyes says to self, I have no king. It says, I have no one who reigns over me. It screams, I have no authority that I have to yield and submit to. Therefore, I do what I believe. I do what I will. I do what I believe is right. I do what I think is right in my own eyes. You ever tried to warn someone that you care about and you try to take the word to them and, oh, well, I don't see it that way. Excuse me, who's the authority here? Who is the creator? Who is the potter? And who is the clay? We don't remember who is really in charge. Y'all said, how dare you say? How dare you talk back to me like this, y'all said? How dare you? I created you from the dirt, from the red dirt that with the mist, the water formed the clay. He says, how dare you talk back to me like this? How dare you? Doing what is right in our own eyes says, I have no king. King means to reign or to reign over a people. When you do what is right in your own eyes, you say, I don't have someone to submit to. I have no one that paid a price for me. We have a king, YahsharAL. We have a king, and his name is Yahusha. He is over us. It's his rules, not ours. It's Yah over everything. You've heard people say that, Yah over everything. Just because you're a descendant of YahsharAL doesn't mean that the door is going to be open. It's not about I'm blood descendant, YahsharAL. Most of them were wicked and didn't make it out of the wilderness. We know this. They didn't make it. He says they will never enter into my rest. Ask yourself, is my identity in Yahusha? Because that's the only thing that's going to matter. Just because our forefather is Yaakov, Jacob, doesn't mean that our people think that's an instant ticket to get into the kingdom and they can live their life waywardly, not keep his commandments, go around hating people. You know, I got Yah at the end of my name, but I'm not bearing his name. There's nothing in my life that bears the attributes and the characteristics of who the Father is. I'm not bearing any fruits of the Spirit. And I've rejected the MaShiach. I've rejected the New Testament. I don't believe in that he's the only begotten son of Yah. I don't believe in his virgin birth. You don't believe in that, and you believe Joseph is the father, you're already condemned, point blank, period. Yah and Yahusha are not the same. He says that he has an authority. His teachings are not his own. He says, I do what I hear the Father doing. I do what I see the Father doing. I say what I hear the Father telling me to say. We just had this teaching. Yes, people still talking about he the dead. How is he him and he's sitting at the right hand? How is he him if he said, I got an authority that's greater than me? Yah means self-existing or eternal one. He sent his son to pay the purchase price so that he could take YahsharAL back. He said, I come not except for the lost sheep of the house of YahsharAL. So your identity has to be in Yahusha. Because Yah don't care about your culture. He don't care about your hair wrap. He don't care about your feast. He don't care about what you believe. If you ain't about Yahusha, you don't believe that he's the only begotten son of Yah. You don't believe in his testimony, the testimony he said of his son, you are already condemned. You are already condemned. You got to get out of your head and humble yourself. Forget about being right. I don't want to be right in my own eyes. I don't want to be right. I want to be righteous. I want to stand righteous in the sight of Yah. I want to stand before the King of Kings, Master of all masters, and not be ashamed because I live a life submitted to everything but him. Because you can live your life and seek after everything in this world: fame, fortune, money, jobs, seeking the perfect husband, perfect wife, everything that you have sought after. If you have not sought after Yahusha, if you don't know him, everything that you have sought after will have been in vain. Everything will have been in vain. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody is not going to be the bride. John, I don't know if you remember, John the Baptist, he referred to himself as a friend of the bride. Why? Because he was a voice crying in the wilderness. He was preparing the way for our master Yahusha to come. He was preparing the way for the bride of Yahusha to walk down that aisle, to walk to her bride. He was preparing the way, like someone preparing the aisles, laying down the royal paper for the bride to walk down, laying the petals and the flowers on, getting everything prepared for her to walk to her groom. That's what John the Baptist was doing, preparing the way, preparing the bride to get ready. When we're doing what right now is preparing the bride to get ready for the bridegroom. Okay, when you are servicing the bride or the bridegroom, the focus shifts from self to the person that you're serving. Who are you serving, YahsharAL? Because his work is not your work. John the Baptist, his work was to make Yahusha known to YahsharAL, to the guest and to the guests. That's what we're doing right now. I'm speaking to YahsharAL, but I'm also speaking to those who are the guests, who are those of other nations who have joined themselves, those who are seeking salvation. That's why when Peter said, well, who are you talking to, us or them? Yahusha was answering both. I want to stand before the King of Kings and Master of Master. I don't want to stand before him and be ashamed. I want to stand before him not ashamed, because I live a life submitted to the one who gave up his life for me. Nothing you believe in this world will matter. No matter how good it looks, no matter how good it may feel, no matter how right it may seem, because they got that song, if loving you was wrong, I don't want to be right. None of that matters, no matter how good it looks, no matter how right it feels. If Yahusha, who is the word of Yah, if he said it's wrong, then it's wrong. It's time to get your minds right. It is time to examine yourselves to see if you are truly in the faith, because I can promise you, it is not, nothing you doing, nothing you believe in is going to be worth it. The only thing that is going to matter is if I have endured to the end to be saved. If I have oil in my lamp. That's the only thing that's going to matter. That's the only thing that's going to matter. Let me read this other scripture. Yah says, why do you contend with me? I'm still in Jeremiah. So I'm still in Jeremiah, chapter 2. Yah says, why do you contend with me, all of you? You have rebelled against me, says Yah. In vain, I have stricken your sons. They received no correction. Your own sword has devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. O generation, see the word of Yah. Have I been a wilderness to Israel, or a land of darkness? Why do my people say, we roam, we will come no more to you? Are you looking at this? Yah saying, what? Why are my people saying we're going to roam? We not coming to you. We get ready to wander. Look what he says in verse 32. This I'll tell you, Yah just set this up perfectly for this lesson. He says, can a virgin forget her ornaments? Do you forget your ornaments, your jewelry, your veil? Do you forget all the stuff you're supposed to wear? He says, does a bride her wedding attire? Do you forget your wedding attire, your dress, everything that comes? Do you forget that? He says, yet my people have forgotten me days without number. What? Do you trim your ways to seek love? You see this? Do you trim your ways to seek love? Our people getting themselves in order, but it's not for him. We preparing, but it's not for him. Do you trim your ways to seek love? He says, for this reason, you have even taught the evil woman your ways. Also, on your skirt is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. I did not find them by breaking in, but on all these. Yet you say, because I am innocent, you say, I do what is right in my own eyes. I'm innocent. Y'all say, because you say you innocent, when you not, He says, surely my anger, he says, surely his anger gonna turn for me. Oh, God know my heart. He know my heart. Oh, I love him while I'm in the club. Yeah, he know my heart. While I'm fornicating, I know I'm not married. Oh, yeah, he know my heart. I'm still haven't repented from lying. Oh, yeah, he know my heart. Yah is saying, because you think you innocent and you not. Oh, you think my anger gonna turn? Oh, he know I love. God know I love him. I say it with my mouth, but my heart is far from him. He says, because you say you're innocent and you're not, you on that God knows my heart. He says, behold, I will judge you because you have said, I have not sinned. Yah is not playing with us. He's not playing with us. I'm getting ready to call Preenya in a second. I'm showing you, they put these in my apartment complex. They just put these new lamps up. Now, what does this look like to you? Does this not look like the lamp that we've been seeing all throughout the teaching? They just put this in. When I tell you this thing shines so bright, I love it because it's so beautiful. The picture, my camera phone is not a good camera phone, but it doesn't do it injustice. It is so beautiful. They put these up last month, sometime in early February. And so what it is you don't need a switch like the old one that I had up. I would switch it. You turn the light switch up for it to cut on when you wanted the light on and then off. So these new ones, lamps that they're putting up, they go on and off on their own. So when the sun goes down, the lamps come on. And when the sun rises, they go off during the daytime. So mine never was going off. It was staying on all day. It's daytime. It's 2, it's 3. And I'm like, I called them 2 or 3 times. They coming out checking it. I'm like, my lamp won't go out. It won't go out. And it shines. It is so bright. Like when I open up my blinds, just to, during the daytime, it's shining through. It is so bright. I love how it looks. And I'm like, because it's not a bulb. I don't know what this thing is, but it's not, but it shines so bright. It looks so beautiful. Everything is so lit at night. Like you can really see everything. And I think they changed them. They're doing a lot of upgrades around here. And some people were saying it was too dark, couldn't see. So you can see these all throughout, everyone on their porches. But mine was the only one in the community. I go out on the porch and I'm looking and I'm all up and down. Nobody's lights is on but mine. And I'm complaining. I'm calling the leasing office. I'm like, okay, my lamp won't go off. And I say, is this being charged to us? I said, because this lamp is gonna be staying on all day. And she said, oh, well, it'll adjust, it's gonna go off. It's gonna go off. She said, well, it goes off during the day. And it only at night it comes on. I said, mine is on. She said, it's on now. I said, yes, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This thing was not, I'm waiting in like how much longer? The sun shining and everything. It's still on. I'm like, why won't my lamp go out? And I look all up and down. I don't see nobody's lamp on but mine. And it just recently, I guess they had to adjust it, but the man had to come out here like 2 or 3 times. And they didn't have to ring my doorbell because they did the initial time they put it in. They said, they took the switch off. So there's no switch on the inside like it was with the old one to cut it on. It automatically comes off and on its own. But I took this picture, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? I think it was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was the day before yesterday. Or well, maybe it was yesterday. But nonetheless, it was within either Thursday or Friday. And I looked over at it and my spirit was quickened. And immediately the Ruach was like, remember when you was wondering why your lamp wouldn't go out? And he took me back and immediately I thought about the lesson, like think about the lesson that I just gave you. And your lamp and why? Because I'm leaving to go out. Now I'm showing you this picture because this is it. This is the daytime. This is the daytime. I think this was, did it rain Thursday? I think it rained Thursday. But this is it. So I'm showing you this to let you know that it was broad daylight and this lamp is shining bright. And I'm like, why is it? And I'm irritated the other day because I'm like, why is this lamp still on? And then the Ruach, I looked at it and my spirit was quickened. And immediately the scripture with the lamps and the 10 virgins and the lamp and how I want your lamp to keep burning. And it was like he was telling me, this is how I want you to be. I want your lamp to keep burning. Keep burning for me. Never let your fire go out for me. Never let your swelling desire for me, seeking me, spending time with me, reading my word, praising, worshiping, fasting, doing the work, the harvest, all the things that you're doing. Never let your fire go out for me. And I just was like, I just started praising Yah. I just have been in awe of Yah because of just everything he's been doing. Don't let this be you. Because he said that he was going to take that Ephesus, he was going to take their candlestick away if they didn't repent and do the works as the virgins, doing the work that they did at first. He said, you have left your first love. What does your candle look like right now? How bright is your light? How much of the measuring of the Ruach do you have? Are you waiting? Because all of the virgins, all of them, all 10 were virgins. That meant they all were in covenant with him. They all knew that they were engaged. They all were in that family. They all knew they had work because they're yoked to him. They all knew this. They were all waiting because when the bridegroom came, according to the parable, they all got up, except the wise had the oil, the ruach accompanying them. And it says that the foolish carried no oil with them. They didn't have it. Give us some of yours. Ours is going out. He said, we can't, because if we give you ours, then we won't be able to make it. We won't be able to get in. So although they were waiting, they were living their best life, a life that did not include a relationship with Yahusha, a life that did not include them experiencing him and knowing the Father. I ask you a question. Have you stopped waiting? Have you stopped waiting? Have you given up hope on our Messiah and his return? Because not waiting can cost you. That one thing that we have hope for, that one thing, I hope that, I pray that you have not become impatient in waiting. I hope that you have not stopped waiting, not stopped hoping, not giving up. Because his word is reliable. His word is true. He is going to return. Did you know that something that I wanted to share with you, and I'll share it in a moment, but think about something that when you want something and because it's taking too long and you give up. And that thing that you have been hoping in, that thing that you were believing in, because you stopped waiting, because you stopped hoping, you either missed it or it never came to pass. Waiting is necessary for the fulfillment and for the promise to come. Waiting is necessary. And I share my testimony, going through my faith walk journey. When I lost my job in August and I've been waiting on this money to come for 2 years. And it had been held up. And I'm like crying to y'all, when, this was mine. I needed it now. I didn't need it then. You know, y'all released those funds to me like within 3 days after I was released from my job. You see this? I'm waiting with expectation that my Abba Yah in this new season is getting ready to bless me. I'm hoping with anticipation, and I am expecting him to come through. He has not made me wait since August to not reward me for being faithful. Oil represents the crushing and the pressing that has to occur to make pure oil. When you have the olives, they have to be pressed. I'm feeling the pressure. I'm feeling the crushing, but it is necessary. The crushing is necessary. The crushing is the endurance that has to happen until the end. Our forefathers didn't endure until the end. That's why they never saw the land flowing with milk and honey. They never entered into his rest because they didn't endure. They did not endure. Do you realize, and I didn't put it on here and I wish I did, but pillar, according to the ancient Hebrew lexicon in the Bible, we've been talking about this. Pillar means to be firm. But did you know that pillar also means to pour water or oil onto someone for washing or anointing? Did you know that? Yah followed YahsharAL by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Yah was literally covering his people while he was hovering, pouring water and oil to cleanse and to anoint them. Did you know that? That's why he says, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. The church has become dull. It is time to rent our clothes. It is time to pour dirts on our heads. There should be nobody talking about some revival. How is there a revival when the world is on their way to hell and nobody is repenting? The church is dull. The church has lost its sharpness. That's why it says iron sharpens iron. Nobody in the church is being sharpened because they listening to pastors that are knives that are dull. The church has lost its authority. Did you know that sharp means unity? When he says to come to the full unity of Yahusha, that means to be sharp. Sharp, according to the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, is spelled Hey Dalet, means wall, door. Two or more things coming together as a unity. It means a unit. Two are greater than one. A two-edged sword. They meet to form one point. Again, brothers and sisters, sharp means to unite. It means unity or unit. Iron sharpens iron. How can two walk unless they agree? A kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. A city or house divided against itself cannot stand. A sword is not dull. A sword is firm. It cuts. Are you understanding what I'm saying? To stand means to be firm. It means a pillar. Something that grabs, holds, or supports something else. A large group of the same kind are stronger than one. That's that rope. Doesn't it sound like unity? Like those who are united in Yahusha? Ready or not, he's coming. He's coming for a bride without spot or blemish. You, if as a bride, if you're a woman, you know what bride is getting ready to walk down the aisle with a wrinkled dress, a dress with spots over it, blemish. You not. That's why I said, show me one. I don't know. I don't like to go out with wrinkled clothes, let alone if I'm a wedding. You want to look beautiful. You want everything prepared, the decorations, the food, everything matters. Let me tell you, everything matters to Yah the Father and Yahusha the Son. It matters. It matters how you show up for the wedding. Remember the guy showed up and he snuck in. He's like, how did you get in here? You don't have on the right attire. How did you get in here? And he cast them to outer darkness. He says it was weeping and gnashing of teeth. So I am done. I plead with you that I ask, will you be prepared? Are you ready to be a virgin? One who is in covenant, in the house, in covenant with the Father. Examine yourself, dig, and see if you are in the faith. I'm done, sis.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm telling you, this was, as you said, sobering. It's with a call of correction.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard in my spirit, and I wrote it down, Shema, YahsharAL, hear, obey the call.
Yes.
Prepare now, for the kingdom of Yah is at hand. This level, I'm telling you, I was just in awe of this whole lesson and how what we've been learning from like months.
Yes, it all came together, didn't it?
Full circle. I'm like, I saw everything that Yah had led you on from the I don't even know the beginning of sale.
Right.
It's the set up a standard.
Yes.
And from that lesson, and I don't know if it was one before that, but from there on that I remember up until now, you see it come full circle. I was just in awe what virgin mean. Okay.
Right. The real reason is not just you being someone on.
Okay. I was like, wow, like
you cannot have sex and not be in covenant with him, not have a relationship, not know him.
Right. And just that, like you said, I had a greater understanding of what the parable of the 10 virgins on just a deeper surface. Also oil, just that was presented in a deeper level. And just understanding the whole concept of just waiting, and that it's an action behind, Yah's word is always action. Yes. So it's not stagnant. And just prepare, we talked about prepare, and that's to examine deeply, to look deeply. But I love how it mirrors trimmed, because when you trim, when you talked about trimming, you're examining, you're looking, to and you're cutting off those sins that are not, that you have recognized and you have repented and cut it off, and then now you have changed your mind and you are changing in a new direction. And I'm just telling you, just the whole setup of the lesson from beginning to end was awing to me. I was in awe of just this whole lesson when you went over the 10 virgins and you expound on how, that diagram that you showed, like the tabernacle. That's what really like stood out. Like those foolish virgins are the ones that's on the outside of the camp, the ones that have not repented, that have not, because you can't come, you can't be in the inner court, and you have not cleansed yourself.
Right.
And so,
exactly. Right. It was like, it seemed like it went back almost years for some of the
Yes. So I was just like in awe of all of that, and just what the lamp represent. And then when you went in the 7 churches and especially Ephesus, And you talked about the art that the art that Yahusha had against them.
Revelations.
Yes, and Revelation, and how it mirrored Ephesians 4:30.
Yes.
Of not grieving the set apart spirit, so that it won't you because you're sealed until the day of redemption.
Yeah, that's what seals you. So that,
yes. And I was just, and then you talked about
anything that grieves eventually leaves.
Absolutely.
Just like us.
Absolutely. And I was also in awe of what redeem means. Open door.
Yes.
I was like, wow. But
yes, open door.
Yes, but the distinguish of between the 10 virgins, and that was just on point, sis. Talking about the Peter, I think it was Peter, when he questioned Yahusha. That was eye opening of when the wedding, who's I'm trying to think of how it went. But when he was questioning Yahusha about is it
wise and faithful?
Yes, the faith of the wise. Yes, and the faithful servant. I was in awe of that. Okay, and just going over and showing that Yah has not forgotten his covenant, that he is remained truthful, faithful to us. Ever since he promised Abraham, his word is stand and is not void. And I love how you brought in Jeremiah 29. No, Jeremiah chapter 2, and how Yah is like calling us out and rebuking us. You know what I'm saying? And how even from the beginning, what stood out is they wanted to still wander. He was like, no, they said they still want to wander in the wilderness. And that's why we see how they stayed wandering for 40 years.
Right.
40 years in the wilderness, because they refuse.
Right.
To serve him. But this whole lesson, from beginning to end, the purpose of the gifts, and I may I add the Hebrew marriage, the end time harvest, those three harvests that you put together. I'm telling you, I was like, okay, yeah. Just the steps of how the steps of how the betrothal, the marriage, and just seeing where we are at in this end time right now, where we are at, and illustrating that time we have none. That this is an urgent message to get out to his people. And so I was in awe of this whole lesson. It was as we say, off the chain. Okay. So I am I just give praise to Yah, that he's constantly showing us the love that he has, that he's, as scriptures say, that he's he's not quick to I'm drawing a blank here. He's not quick to cut us off, right? So that all, so you have so that none will perish. He's given us that opportunity, so that in the end, when you stand before the judge, you will know that you had every opportunity to get it right. And so the question is, will you, like as you stated, will you be ready? And I just, this lesson is an eye opener. It shows you where we are at, and that time waits on no one. And while Yah is calling, he's still calling. He still is beckoning for you, will you answer the call? That's the question. And will you prepare for your bridegroom?
Hallelujah.
And I love the illustrations. Oh, at the beginning, the illustrations. I wanted to say that you gave with Sarah and Abraham and Moses. That was beautifully illustrated. At the doctor's office, how you wait.
Yes.
In compartments, and just understanding the concept of weight. That was just a beautifully illustrated. But this whole lesson was just like a love story that Yah is trying to show you where he wants for his children, what the love that he has for his children, the love that he is still calling. He's still calling out, and we have to either answer the call or not. And like Yahusha said, you either hot or cold, because lukewarm, you will be spewed out his mouth. And so I just give praise to Yah. Hallelujah.
We're supposed to be doing. We have work to do.
Yes.
And much work to do, and we have to get started with that. He said the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. So you have your gifts, and he has not given us not any gifts. Find out what you're supposed to be doing so that you are doing that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so having said that, may Yah bless and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.
Did you ever know that you were patient, thoughtful? Did you ever know that you were everything that I need? Everyone needs to have that someone to listen, laugh with company. Did you know that you were this to me? Did you know that you were this to me?
Did you ever know that you were awfully inviting? Did you ever know that you were everything I hope to be? Everyone needs to have that someone to lean on, cry with time of need. Did you know that you were this to me?
Did you know that you were this to me? Just like the birds take to air, the wind holds them there. Say you know